Welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Chapter 1. The author is working hard on writing the chapters, stay tuned for more updates. Chapter 2. I am the Immortal Emperor. The Immortal Emperor. In the Big Dipper star field, above the 9 heavens, a shocking roar resounded through the sky, rumbling and shaking. This is a huge and domineering figure, with the sky above his head and the royal aura surging straight into the 9th heaven. At this moment, the 9 heavens and 10 earths were shaking. All living beings were terrified, and billions of creatures in the universe knelt on the ground and worshipped. It's not the right time or the right place. In this life in the mortal world, he wants to become a fighting immortal. This fighting Saint Emperor's methods are indeed against the will of heaven. Unfortunately, his end is only one. In the major life-forbidden areas of the Northern Territory, an ancient supreme being spoke with a cold gaze, gazing into the sky. All the supreme beings lurking in the forbidden area were awakened at this moment. At the same time, at the end of the 9 heavens, countless chaotic energies were surging, and there were also strands of immortal substances boiling. In its depths, a fairy road crack that seemed real and illusory appeared, and an extremely domineering figure was standing in the front. This is a huge ape with golden hair all over its body, but at this moment he is covered in blood, full of rage, and staring at the end in front of him. "You little monkey, you are looking for death." A faint voice came from the cracks in the mysterious and chaotic path to immortality. The next moment, to my great surprise, a tall and slender figure walked out from inside. This was a strange young man. His whole body was surrounded by colorful divine light, shining brightly. Even when facing the old Saint Emperor in combat at his peak state, he was still not affected at all. But at this moment, a cold look appeared on the young man's face. He really wanted to kill the fighting Saint Emperor for his relentless pursuit and crazy fight. If it was the real Immortal Emperor, with powers comparable to those of nature, he would have killed the opponent with a single blow long ago. But the young man in front of me is obviously not that. His real name is Huang Tian, and he is a time traveler who is driven by various unknown and mysterious external forces. Miraculously, he took over the body of the weakest Immortal Emperor who was at the critical moment of nirvana. From then on, he took the place of the dead and became the only supreme god highly respected by all the ancient races. Today is an important day for the fighting Saint Emperor to defy fate, change his destiny, force his way into immortality, and transform into a fighting immortal in the mortal world. So Huang Tian is here. His purpose was very simple. He came only to fight for some of the peak royal blood from the old Saint Emperor. Although his small goal had been achieved, Huang Tian was unfortunately entangled by the monkey. For this despicable guy who dared to sneak attack him in the crack of the road to immortality and the chaotic zone. How could the fighting Saint Emperor, who has always been domineering, fierce and extremely powerful, tolerate this? He calls himself the Holy Emperor for his fighting skills, and wants to be on par with the ancient emperors. This is the absolute strength and confidence of the old Saint Emperor Zhutian. Even if he is in the critical moment of transforming into a war immortal, he will use the immortal iron stick in his hand to strike the legendary Immortal Emperor. Boom! Needless to say, facing the fierce and hot-tempered old Saint Emperor Zhutian, Huang Tian was unwilling to fight to the death. But a world-shaking imperial war is also inevitable. The ancient emperor versus the holy emperor of battle. One of them is an old holy emperor who ruled over the world in the late ancient times and had incredible combat power. The other is the supreme god in the early ancient times, who has a high status and is respected by all races. This battle was too horrifying. Billions of stars rumbled and trembled, and the aura of destruction spread across the world. Fortunately, this battlefield is a crack in the chaos that leads to the immortal path, in the endless chaos. If not, in one battle, both Beidou and the entire vast universe will suffer a devastating disaster. Damn it, my body as an emperor is still a bit stretched. After a few brief fights, Huang Tian retreated and stood in the crack of the road to immortality. The 5-colored divine light around him became brighter and brighter. There is also a rich immortal material energy boiling, nourishing its supreme immortal phoenix body. Fortunately, we were well prepared. We used the so-called golden finger tattered stone and the undead sky sword as the foundation to set up the chaos immortal phoenix array in advance. It cuts off all traces of breath and sound from outside the crack between the human world and the road to immortality. Otherwise, my identity as the prehistoric big black hand would be exposed in advance. Huang Tian sighed lightly as he felt the blood in his body churning slightly. In order to obtain the supreme royal blood of the fighting Saint Emperor on his journey to becoming an immortal, he had been preparing for 10,000 years. And it has the absolute advantage of time and place. In the end, it was because of his own internal reasons that he was far from being able to unleash greater power. In addition, the monkey in front of him was daring enough to fight to the death, and his attitude of not giving up until his death was indeed a bit tricky. Although he has not truly entered the legendary realm of the Heavenly Emperor. But at this time, the latter, with his fearless and indomitable fighting spirit, exerted his combat power to the extreme, reaching an unprecedented level of strength. It is far beyond the level of the general peak ancient emperor, it is indeed extraordinary. What is happening now is like the most blazing and dazzling fireworks. Once the flames burn out, that will be the time for his decline and fall. Therefore, Huang Tian didn't want to waste any more energy. Although he is already the supreme god of all ancient races, the Immortal Emperor. But what he is doing now is Lao Lu's sneak attack, so he should be cautious and play it safe in everything he does. The Holy Emperor's blood essence is already in hand, and Huang Tian is too lazy to continue fighting with this old guy. In this life, he also followed the old path of the Immortal Emperor, bathing in the blood of the emperors and achieving nirvana. At this stage, Huang Tian is still very particular about his targets. As long as he is confident enough to kill the ancient emperor, he will never show mercy. You little monkey, the legendary crack in the road to immortality is just around the corner. Don't waste your energy on me. Cherish your last life at the peak of the imperial way, and try your best to have the chance to become an immortal. Once again he avoided the domineering attack of the fighting Saint Emperor. Huang Tian took this opportunity to recall the immortal sky sword, tearing through the endless void, and fled away in a leisurely manner, disappearing into the depths of infinite chaos. Only the giant ape body of the fighting Saint Emperor was left standing, roaring towards the sky. With a final roar, the fighting emperor, holding the black gold immortal iron stick in his hand, his energy soared into the sky. With the invincible posture of a fighting immortal, he charged towards the deep cracks on the road to immortality. His royal shadow gradually moved farther and farther away until it disappeared without a trace. From that day on, the figure of the old Saint Emperor Zhutian was no longer seen in the world. In the ancient times of Beidou, the last trace of the ancient emperor completely disappeared from heaven and earth, and Beidou, and even the entire human universe, ushered in another unprecedented upheaval in heaven and earth. But all this has nothing to do with Huang Tian. At this time, his real body was sitting cross-legged in the endless chaotic void, with 5 colored divine light surrounding him. After successfully obtaining some of the peak royal blood of the old Saint Emperor Zhutian by dirty tricks near the crack in the road to immortality, he immediately began to refine it with all his strength. Time passed, and no one knew how long it had been before Huang Tian's tightly closed eyes suddenly opened. The chaotic area covering billions of miles in radius suddenly boiled over, and an infinitely powerful and terrifying aura of the immortal phoenix erupted instantly. Fortunately, it was quickly suppressed by Huang Tian. Bathing in the blood of the emperors, this method of becoming an immortal is indeed effective. My cultivation has improved a lot. Feeling the increasingly rich immortal substance in his body, Huang Tian let out a light breath and murmured. Chapter 3. Arriving in Beidou and facing the forbidden zone of life. Although Huang Tian's luck was against the will of heaven, he traveled to the world of Zhutian, and with the help of the Golden Finger and external forces, he successfully took over the body of the Immortal Emperor. Compared with countless other travelers in the past, he won at the starting line right from the start. But all along, the pressure on him has been unprecedentedly huge. The legendary Immortal Emperor has incredible combat power and carries the blood of creatures from the ancient fairyland. He is rare and unparalleled throughout the ages. Following the normal development trajectory, with the terrifying power of the Immortal Emperor, on the road to becoming an immortal, it would be no pressure at all to sneak attack one ancient emperor after another, or the emperor of the human race. But Huang Tian can't do that. From the beginning of his time traveling through time and space, he had already become a master at the peak of the imperial Dao realm. But in the first tens of thousands of years, when Huang Tian was the 6th, he was almost killed by the target emperor 3 or 2 times. There was no way, who told him that he only had unparalleled imperial cultivation, but no combat experience, determination to fight the enemy, or the use of various magical powers and secret techniques of the immortal phoenix bloodline. Compared with the real Immortal Emperor, the difference is not even a little bit. Fortunately, Huang Tian was cautious enough, and he always left enough life-saving methods before taking action each time. Over these long years, he has continued to gain experience and gain familiarity. Make yourself become stronger and stronger, and be able to perfectly and skillfully control this immortal phoenix body. Buzz buzz buzz. After a moment, Huang Tian's mind moved, and light flashed in his body, and then a black stone emerged. This stone is only the size of a palm, and it is completely tattered and there is nothing special about it. But it was the greatest contributor to Huang Tian's ability to take over the body of the Immortal Emperor in the past. It was it that transformed itself into a huge brick and completely destroyed the last bit of the Immortal Emperor's spiritual power, cutting off all hope of his counterattack and killing him. Up to now, Huang Tian still didn't know the origin of this broken stone, even though he already had unparalleled combat power that surpassed the peak emperor. He was still helpless against this piece of broken stone. Even when he used the immortal sword and struck with all his strength, he was unable to leave even a trace on the stone. This was a clear sign of his strength. This black stone looks ordinary and tattered, but it is really amazing. According to conservative estimates, this is at least an immortal weapon, or even more terrifying. Rotten stone, where on earth are you from, and what kind of incredible background do you have? Huang Tian murmured softly as he looked at the broken stones floating in front of him. He understood that this time he accidentally traveled to the world of Zhutian because of this piece of shabby stone. Huang Tian couldn't be sure whether the former had already been psychic and did it on purpose, or was it directed by some mysterious and unpredictable existence behind the black stone, or whether everything was God's will. But the only thing that is clear is that Huang Tian must work hard to become stronger, and one day, he will rely on his own strength to uncover the truth behind it. After a moment, Huang Tian collected his thoughts, his eyes burning as he gazed into the distance at the endless chaos behind him. There, the scent of immortal substances is even more intense, and one can vaguely see the outline of an extremely mysterious huge phantom. It seemed as if an incomparably vast world of life was being nurtured there, and at every moment, there was an astonishing energy of immortal material spewing out. Huang Tian knew that it was not the real ancient fairyland, but a strange world. It is very close to the legendary ancient fairyland and forms a vast world of its own. This is also the strange world in the original, the Great Ruler. In the end, the Immortal Emperor and the beginningless Emperor competed with each other and the duel lasted for thousands of years. According to Huang Tian's current strength, it is still a bit difficult for him to ascend to that realm. What's more, he did not forget that in that strange world, there is a local mortal immortal. That's right, it was the unlucky guy who was slapped to death by the Wuxi Emperor in the later plot. Therefore, he is nicknamed, the soy sauce immortal in the world, by many fans of, the Great Ruler. But Huang Tian didn't dare to take it lightly. No matter whether he was just a supporting role or not, he was still a genuine immortal in the mortal world. What's more, his opponent before was the great Emperor Wuxi, one of the three great emperors of later generations. His incredible fighting power is well known and needless to say. It is not unfair that Hongchen Xian is a soy sauce in his hands. If a fight really broke out, a red dust immortal could easily kill several imperial masters with a single slap. This is the essential difference between the red dust immortal and the imperial Dao master. Huang Tian was unwilling to take this risk easily. He was not strong enough and had to continue to seek development. Now that the ancient mythological era of Shrouding the Sky and the ancient era have come to an end, it is time for the new chapter of the rise of the human emperor to begin. I should also make some careful plans. There is also the emperor who is playing dead and hiding in the dark. He is even more cunning than me. We also need to be on our guard. I will be truly powerful only when I officially enter the realm of the Red Dust Immortal in the future. Huang Tian's eyes sparkled as he kept thinking in his mind. Now, with his strength in Taoism, he is the best among all the emperors and is even closer to the legendary immortal in the mortal world. Huang Tian was still extremely cautious and careful. He had never forgotten that the emperor lurking in the human universe was a super boss in the late stage of the great ruler of heaven. A scheming boy who is even more cunning and patient than Huang Tian. A super old sinister guy. At the moment, Huang Tian doesn't want to alert the enemy and cause a drastic change in the path to becoming an immortal, and scare this guy out in advance. Fortunately, Huang Tian is confident that his own golden finger is still powerful enough. Especially when it comes to restraining his aura, it is unparalleled, as long as Huang Tian does not expose it actively. Even if the opponent is stronger than him, he cannot sense his true origin of breath. It was precisely with this skill that Huang Tian became more and more adept at ambushing the emperors in the cracks of the road to immortality. After some consideration, Huang Tian finally decided to return to the Big Dipper star region, where there were a large number of immortal elixirs and a vast amount of peerless treasures waiting for him to harvest. Although now, these magical medicines are of little effect to him in his peak state. But something is better than nothing. Instead of giving it to those restricted area supremes for free, it is better to snatch it all and enrich your own wealth. Of course, the above are secondary reasons. The main thing is revenge. Huang Tian has not forgotten that in the initial period, he fought bloody battles with those ancient emperors and suffered a lot. Although he later retaliated one by one and made those old guys pay the price with blood. But this still doesn't make me feel better. Nowadays, Huang Tian's cultivation has already reached the pinnacle, so why not try to break into the forbidden zone of life? He always felt that the idea of killing a few ancient supreme beings was not making sense. On the ancient star Beidou, the old Saint Emperor Zhutian failed in his attempt to become a war immortal and thus passed away. The ancient era also ushered in a drastic change in the world. Under the leadership of the ancient royal families, many royal families that were once so powerful also began to retire. In the vast land, disputes among different races continue. Endless fighting is going on every moment, and the weak human race is struggling to survive. Huang Tian descended silently to Beidou, walked on the vast land, and witnessed too much. As for all this, he just watched quietly as an outsider and did not intervene. Soon, he came to a special place, where endless dark mountains stretched across the sky, and the atmosphere was heavy and oppressive. From deep within the endless black mountains, there permeated an endless and terrifying power that made all living beings tremble. This place is called Immortal Mountain, and it is one of the 7 forbidden areas for life in the human world of Shrouding the Sky. The reason why Huang Tian chose this place as the first stop is because in this mountain, lurks an old acquaintance of his, the Stone Emperor. Chapter 4, Nirvana, the Broken Stone is revived. The Stone Emperor, who had attained great perfection in the innate Holy Spirit, was a master of the imperial way from birth and had extremely formidable combat power. Thinking back to the time when Huang Tian had just traveled through time, he was seriously lacking in combat experience in all aspects. When he launched a sneak attack on this master, he almost failed. At that time, he still underestimated the fighting power of Shi Huang. Especially the opponent's forbidden imperial magic power, which almost seriously injured and killed Huang Tian. In the final battle, both sides suffered heavy losses. Huang Tian cut off half of the Stone Emperor's body as he wished and took away a sufficient amount of the Emperor's blood essence. But he also paid a heavy price, as he was damaged by the Stone Emperor's forbidden magical power and his fundamental foundation was damaged. If it were an ordinary Forbidden Zone Supreme Being, he would have died long ago and sat in meditation for years. It also took Huang Tian's tens of thousands of years to recover. Now that Huang Tian's strength has greatly increased, and he has confused the heavens and concealed his own aura, he will naturally come to find Shi Huang to cause trouble. Of course, it would be best if we could take advantage of this opportunity to kill the Stone Emperor in one wave. For this reason, he deliberately suppressed his own cultivation level at the Quasi-Emperor 9th level realm, and began to play the pig and eat the tiger, trapping his opponents. Who is so bold as to enter the Immortal Mountain and seek death? When Huang Tian walked into the Immortal Mountain alone, a cold voice soon sounded. Soon, a strange headless knight appeared, and the stone spear in his hand stabbed at Huang Tian mercilessly. But soon, this powerful headless knight flew backwards at an even faster speed, his entire body cracked and blood spurted out continuously. Huang Tian just slapped it with one slap and it broke into pieces. Stone Emperor, you old bastard, stop cowering and come out to fight. Huang Tian's loud shout resounded throughout the undying mountain, shaking many black mountains and causing them to rumble and tremble. Even outside the life-forbidden zone, all living beings in the 5 realms were extremely shocked. Thousands of years have passed, and yet today there are still living beings who are so bold as to break into the forbidden zone of life and challenge the ancient supreme being. He even named and asked the Stone Emperor to come out for a fight. How domineering and arrogant, so fierce. Boom! In the Immortal Mountain, Huang Tian's bloody energy surged, overwhelming the world, as if an ancient god had descended into the mortal world. But then, from the depths of the Immortal Mountain, a terrifying murderous intent erupted and swept across. You are just a quasi-emperor ant, and you dare to scold the Supreme Being. Today, I will destroy your body and soul. Deep in the Immortal Mountain, the Stone Emperor revived, his imperial aura surged, and his rage soared to the sky. As the Supreme Being of ancient times, he was actually confronted and shouted at by a quasi-emperor creature today. This was simply the greatest irony and contempt for him, the Stone Emperor. When the Supreme One gets angry, millions of people die, the sky collapses and the earth splits, and waves of blood surge. In an instant, the vast Immortal Mountain seemed to have completely revived. The aura was extremely terrifying and shook the earth. Almost at the same time, a terrifying giant hand stretched out from the depths of the Immortal Mountain. It was the Stone Emperor who took action. Although he is still in a dormant stage and has severed his own imperial body, he can be revived with a single thought and still possesses the ability to wield everything in the world. This is a supreme power, unparalleled and extremely powerful. Buzz. Facing the Stone Emperor's attack, Huang Tian was not afraid and attacked him forcefully. At this moment, not only the Immortal Mountain was shaking, but all the regions of Beidou were shaking as well. Shocked and horrified eyes from all sides were focused on the Immortal Mountain. But such an unexpected and shocking war broke out quickly and ended quickly. In just a few breaths, the Immortal Mountain soon returned to peace. It was not until a long time later that a roar filled with pain and rage resounded throughout the 10 directions. Damn you! You stole my Immortal Mountain's divine medicine, a peerless treasure. This hatred is irreconcilable. Even if I chase you to the ends of the earth or the edge of the universe, I will never let you go in the Immortal Mountain. At the ancient star of Beidou, all the cultivators were shocked and felt it was incredible. Although the shocking battle in the Immortal Mountain was extremely short, countless cultivators and creatures of all ancient races already knew about it. In this life, another young and mysterious quasi-emperor creature has risen. Moreover, they forcefully broke into the Immortal Mountain, one of the major life-forbidden areas. It is suspected that an ancient supreme being was severely injured and the elixir of immortality in the restricted area was snatched away. And various peerless treasures. This kind of behavior is really crazy and too dreamy. Who exactly is this young quasi-emperor realm expert and how could he possess such extraordinary and miraculous combat power? It has only been less than 10,000 years since the old Saint Emperor Zhutian passed away, and this amazing and unparalleled emperor has been born in this world. Is he going to attain enlightenment? Which race of genius creatures does he belong to? Quote. The ancient royal families were also deeply moved and began to frantically search for the former's traces. Even several other forbidden areas of life were alarmed, and some ancient supreme beings sent out their divine thoughts to search all over the universe. I want to find the trace of the mysterious quasi-emperor realm expert, but all this is destined to be in vain. After one successful strike, he fled far away. Huang Tian's movements are extremely skillful. As expected of the ancient supreme being, none of them is easy to deal with. You little Stone Emperor, you were lucky this time. Although it was a bit regrettable, there was no surprise and the Stone Emperor was killed. But the effect is almost the same. At this moment, the Stone Emperor was probably half killed because of him. Looking at the dazzling black tortoise immortal medicine in his hand, plus the large amount of immortal treasures he had looted, Huang Tian nodded with satisfaction. This time, they broke into the Immortal Mountain and at least took away more than 80% of the Immortal Mountain's resources. In the coming years, these old guys will have a hard time. If they are not careful, they may die. Originally, in the shocking battle at the Immortal Mountain, he had enough power to kill the Stone Emperor in one fell swoop. But at the critical moment, other ancient supreme beings lurking in the Immortal Mountain joined forces and formed a formation of emperors in the Immortal Mountain. His attack was interrupted, which allowed the Stone Emperor to escape by chance. This is a bit of a pity. All I can say is that this old stone is not destined to die. On the ancient star of Beidou, the winds and clouds are turbulent, and undercurrents are surging. A mysterious and powerful quasi-emperor creature suddenly appears and makes a big fuss in the Immortal Mountain, causing endless waves on this ancient star. There was a sense of depression and uneasiness among the ancient royal families, and in the major life-forbidden areas, the aura was surging, making all living beings tremble in fear. And in this tense and depressing atmosphere, Huang Tian took action again. 3 days later, a war suddenly broke out in another major life-forbidden zone. The aura of the Emperor rushed straight into the sky, shaking the 9 heavens. This battle was extremely brutal, with the blood of the ancient Emperor splattering and dyeing the sky red. He was an ancient supreme being in the sea of samsara. He was suppressed and defeated by that mysterious strong man. Even his supreme arms and head were forcibly cut off. The Supreme's painful roar shook the entire universe. All living creatures knew that it was that mysterious quasi-emperor creature that had taken action again. First it was the Immortal Mountain, and then it was the Sea of Samsara. Oh my God, could that mysterious supreme being really be planning to challenge all the forbidden areas of life alone? A monk said in a trembling voice. One person challenges several major life-forbidden zones. He is so strong and domineering, unprecedented. As soon as these words were spoken, the ancient Big Dipper star was shaken, and all the major life-forbidden zones were filled with strange phenomena and murderous intent. No matter who this creature lurking in the dark is, it dares to be so contemptuous and provocative of the forbidden zone of life. These ancient supreme beings will definitely make him pay the price in blood. Even in the most mysterious and terrifying Taichu ancient mine, the ancient supreme being has personally spoken and is determined to kill the enemy. But within 3 days after this ancient supreme being made the announcement, the Taichu ancient mine was attacked. That mysterious quasi-emperor creature sneaked into the Taichu ancient mine silently, and a shocking bloody battle broke out again. That battle was even more brutal. Several supreme emperors were well prepared, revived at the same time, and attacked frantically. Even the Taichu ancient mine was completely sealed off by the joint efforts of all the masters and isolated from the outside world. But that horrific imperial war still affected the entire ancient Big Dipper star. The heaven and earth shook violently, and all parts of the universe suffered huge impacts. A full half-month had passed before this horrific and brutal imperial war finally came to an end. No one in the outside world could know the final outcome of the war, but since that battle, the Taichu ancient mine has become completely silent. Rumor has it that the mysterious and powerful quasi-emperor creature has been completely killed by the joint efforts of all the masters. There are also rumors that several supreme emperors of the Taichu ancient mine joined forces but still could not suppress their opponents, and one of the supreme emperors even ended up bleeding and was killed. They even forcibly plundered a large number of peerless treasures from the Immortal Mountain, such as the primordial life stone, etc. In the end, this peerless creature proved his truth with the blood of the Supreme Emperor and became another supreme figure of the imperial way after the old Saint Emperor Zhutian. No one knows the exact truth, and only those who have participated in the battle in the life-forbidden zone know it best. For a time, the mysterious quasi-royal creature became the hottest topic in all parts of the universe, and gave rise to endless legends. However, his existence became a taboo in the ancient times of the Beidou ancient star, and no living being dared to talk about it easily. No one in the world knows his name, and they only call him, Evil Emperor. The ancient Evil Emperor, a complete lunatic, is too weird and unbelievable. He is just a quasi-emperor, who has not yet achieved enlightenment, but he dares to launch sneak attacks on several life-forbidden areas and snatch the most precious elixir in the forbidden areas. Who else except this guy would dare to do this? Even a supreme emperor at the pinnacle of the world might not have the courage to do so. Of course, what's even more crazy is that this guy actually did it. Based on this point alone, the title of Evil Emperor of the ancient times is well deserved. And he also became the biggest unknown case in the history of the entire Beidou and Emperor Burial Star. An indescribable dark history of the supreme being in the Forbidden Zone. Huang Tian didn't want to pay attention to the various rumors about the ancient Beidou star and the human world and universe. At this moment, in a hidden chaotic area at the edge of the universe, he was staring at the black stone in front of him in a daze with a look of astonishment. The Heavenly Emperor's cultivation has improved again, and this broken stone has actually begun to revive. Huang Tian never expected that after he had finally refined several immortal elixirs such as the Black Tortoise, Qilin, and True Dragon, as well as a large amount of peerless immortal spiritual essence. Taking advantage of the momentum of Nirvana's rebirth, when he was getting closer to the realm of the mortal world, he unexpectedly encountered such a sudden change. At this time, the broken stones in his body revived on their own, and wisps of strange and dazzling talismans emerged one after another. This is the supreme talisman that even Huang Tian himself cannot comprehend. It is the most divine and sacred, and unparalleled. Even if one's cultivation is close to the immortal realm in the mortal world, it is so small and insignificant in front of it. What shocked Huang Tian even more was that when these wisps of great doubt talismans poured into his mind, he actually sensed some shocking information on his own. In this obscure ancient saying, the word, Hongwang, was actually involved. As the golden light of the talisman on the brilliant avenue flowed, Huang Tian felt that this broken stone became more agitated, and the space and time in all directions began to distort, as if the next moment, it would take him out completely. Chapter 5. The first time in the prehistoric times, the Hongchen catastrophe. Is this time travel? Wait a minute, rotten stone, I'm not prepared at all. Feeling the increasingly strong ripples of time and space around him, Huang Tian's face changed drastically and he couldn't help but exclaim. It took him hundreds of millions of years to finally make it through, and he now has a chance to become an immortal in the mortal world. You bastard, a piece of broken stone, actually wants to throw yourself into the legendary primitive world. Huang Tian said that he really didn't want to go. Even if I want to go, it's not now. The legendary great world, what a terrifying and horrifying place it is. As a time traveler, Huang Tian knows very well that the current world of Shrouding the Sky is nothing but a younger brother compared to the former one. Anyone who can be comparable to it will probably have to wait until countless epochs, until the late stage of the Holy Ruins world. Unfortunately, this rotten stone now doesn't want to give Huang Tian such a long time to practice. As soon as the immortal energy emerged, the former revived on its own, and it seemed that it was going to forcibly open a large space-time rift and send the host Huang Tian directly over. No, I have finally made it this far. I am the Immortal Emperor, the supreme god of all races. How can I leave so easily? Huang Tian roared, the blood of the immortal phoenix in his body boiled, and the boundless and vast chaotic area exploded. He was unwilling to be manipulated so easily by a piece of broken stone. He wanted to resist. This was the emperor's heart that he had honed over countless years. This time, Huang Tian used his strongest means. The immortal phoenix bloodline boiled to the extreme, and the immortal sky sword had already been summoned in his hand. Tiandao means the way of heaven. Represents supreme combat power. Unfortunately, Huang Tian still failed. No matter how hard he tried, he could not stop the progress of time travel. He could only watch helplessly as his true body of the immortal phoenix was gradually swallowed up by countless cracks in time and space. Until the last critical moment, Huang Tian gritted his teeth and spurted out 2 large mouthfuls of blood. The unfinished plans that follow are all up to you too. Wait for my true body to return one day. Huang Tian's figure completely disappeared, leaving only his unwilling roar that echoed for a long time in the dead silence and cold endless chaos. Of course, along with it, there are also 2 extremely precious balls of the Emperor's blood. Chi. The chaotic mist surged violently, and the 2 floating balls of royal essence blood also underwent an astonishing transformation at this moment. After the blazing fairy light flashed, it strangely transformed into 2 human-shaped creatures. I will never die. One of the humanoid creatures, wearing a Taoist robe, bowed and said, I am Huang Tian. Another humanoid creature also spoke. The 2 Taoists looked at each other, and then disappeared into the vast chaos. As the real person involved, Huang Tian's had already completely disappeared in this world of Zhutian. It is vast and boundless. When Huang Tian woke up again, he found himself in a terrible battlefield. The shouting and roaring sounds all around were deafening, and the murderous aura was so overwhelming that even a top emperor like Huang Tian felt extremely nervous. But then, when Huang Tian shifted his gaze and looked at the vast and terrifying battlefield, his expression became completely dull. In the center of the battlefield, real dragons were circling one after another, huge and boundless, with terrifying blood and energy. That is the real dragon in the legend. It had already become extinct during the era of Shrouding the Sky and became a vague and illusory supreme legend. But here, it can be seen everywhere, filling the sky with a dark mass. Of course, in addition to the real dragons, there are also dazzling phoenixes wrapped in blazing divine flames. They were the Phoenix clan that shared the same bloodline as Huang Tian. No, just from the breath of the phoenix transmitted from the extremely distant center of the battlefield, Huang Tian clearly felt that the blood power contained in those phoenixes far exceeded his own. A real dragon, a phoenix, and that Qilin. Oh my god, could this be the legendary prehistoric dragon catastrophe? After his eyes swept across many real dragons and phoenixes, Huang Tian also saw the legendary mythical beast Qilin again. At this moment, his heart was shocked, and he suddenly realized that he had been tricked by that broken stone. I originally thought that being forced to travel to a primitive world without knowing why was tragic enough. But he never thought that the broken stone was even more shameless and insidious than he imagined. Not only did you force me to cross over here, but you also crossed over to the most terrifying Hongchen calamity in the prehistoric world. As a time traveler, he is naturally very familiar with the term, primeval catastrophe. The Hongchen catastrophe in the middle is, to some extent, worse than the earlier Daomo catastrophe. Or perhaps the coming calamity of wizards and demons, and the calamity of conferring gods, will be much more terrifying. Especially for the dragon, phoenix and unicorn tribes, it was a disaster of genocide and there was no hope of survival at all. Unfortunately, Huang Tian was very lucky. As an immortal fairy phoenix, he was once high above in the world of Zhutian, overlooking the supreme god of all ages. After traveling through time to the prehistoric Hongchen catastrophe, he was just a cannon fodder. No, based on his current so-called peak imperial cultivation, he is not even a cannon fodder. This time Huang Tian is in complete tragedy. Boom! Just when Huang Tian was in a state of confusion, a huge roar woke him up. Soon he saw a huge monster with its bloody mouth wide open, swallowing him with thundering ferocity. Damn it, you lousy piece of shit. I'm done for, and I'm definitely going to drag you down with me. Under the huge and dangerous crisis, Huang Tian woke up instantly, roared, and then used his secret technique to retreat at an extremely fast speed. At the same time, he was mentally prepared to perish along with this crappy, shabby stone. At worst, before he dies, he will shout out his identity as a time traveler and tell Hongjun and even the great heaven and earth about the existence of this broken stone. Boom! In the boundless battlefield, shouts and roars shook the sky, and the incomparable energy of catastrophe was still condensing crazily. At this time, the battlefields everywhere had already been filled with killing madly. Every moment, the blood of unicorns, real dragons, and phoenixes could be seen splattering, and countless mythical beasts were wailing and howling. This was the great catastrophe of Hongchen in the Great Desolation. The heaven and the earth were all shrouded in blood and killing. The overlords of the three tribes in the Great Desolation had already gone bloodthirsty. Moreover, this tragic and terrifying war has been going on for who knows how many tens of thousands of years. Of course, none of this has much to do with Huang Tian right now, as he is running away frantically. That's right, running away. Behind him, there were two unicorns, one black and one red, chasing him madly. At his side, there was also a real dragon of 10,000 feet long, staring at him with murderous intent. Although they are all at the most marginal level of the three tribes' battlefield at this time, with low strength and impure bloodlines, they can be regarded as cannon fodder among cannon fodder to each other. But there was no way to resist, the other side had too many numbers, the majestic and ferocious murderous aura was raging, and the pairs of red eyes made one's scalp tingle just by looking at them. At this moment, Huang Tian was really panicking. At this moment, he dared to swear that he had never put so much effort into using the 9 secrets at any other time. The soles of my feet are almost smoking from his steps. Countless special patterns emerged, enveloping Huang Tian, transforming into a human-shaped lightning, tearing through the void, and rushing straight to the end of the battlefield. Unfortunately, Huang Tian failed to escape as he wished. He was surrounded again by the joint attack of 2 Qilin beasts and a divine dragon. Among the 3 tribes of divine beasts, it seems that his power is the weakest. Therefore, Huang Tian completely became a despicable delicacy in the eyes of the mythical beast Qilin and the real dragon. Just when he thought he was going to be completely defeated, he suddenly discovered that the Qilin and the real dragon, which had been chasing him madly, had actually started fighting. The fight between them was so brutal. In just a few breaths, all 3 were seriously injured, the blood of the divine beast splattered, dyeing the vast earth red. Good opportunity. Seeing this, Huang Tian did not hesitate at all and immediately rushed forward. Although he had just arrived in the prehistoric world and was still at his weakest stage, as the immortal phoenix that covered the sky and a powerful person at the peak of the imperial way, Huang Tian's combat awareness and experience had long been honed. He also seized the split-second opportunity for battle. When he exerted all his strength, the immortal heavenly sword glowed brightly and was extremely sharp. Especially after being nourished by the spiritual energy of this supreme world, the power of the heavenly sword was beyond imagination. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 6, The First Battle in Prehistoric Times, Fighting with Real Dragons and Unicorns. Puff puff. This knife did not disappoint Huang Tian. A knife slashed across, and crystal blood splattered all over the sky. The huge Qilin, as big as an ancient mountain, roared in pain and flew away. There was a hideous and terrible wound on the body of the Qilin. Such a pity. Seeing this scene, Huang Tian sighed, feeling quite regretful. The knife strike just now condensed all his energy and spirit. If this kind of power were placed in the human world of Shrouding the Sky, killing the Supreme Being would be as easy as chopping melons and vegetables. The seriously injured red unicorn beast in front of him took a direct blow from his immortal heavenly sword. It only made a wound and was not completely torn apart. From this we can see how powerful the former Qilin's physical defense is. Clang, clang, clang. But Huang Tian was not angry. After all, he was a man who had experienced many ups and downs. In a flash, he stepped on the Xing character seal, holding the immortal sky sword, and his figure was like a ghost, and he attacked again. The target is still the red unicorn. While you are sick, I will kill you. If I can't kill you with one blow, I'll hit you a few more times. Huang Tian just didn't believe that with his current level of cultivation, he couldn't deal with this seriously injured and weak big Qilin. Roar, you mixed-haired bird, die. In just a few breaths, the red Qilin, which had been slashed several times in a row, finally came to his senses. Feeling the intense pain in its body, it roared to the sky, and the Qilin blood flame around its body grew stronger and spread rapidly. At this time, the Qilin clan's innate magical power is the innate flame burning their own essence and blood. Like the Phoenix clan's nirvana fire, it can burn everything in the world. At this moment, one can see with the naked eye that in the area of hundreds of thousands of miles, raging blood flames are raging, rising into the sky with great power. Unfortunately, the red unicorn's furious attack had no effect. Because Huang Tian didn't fight it head-on, its figure was erratic and moved like a ghost, making it difficult for the red Qilin to capture it. On the contrary, it was the latter who attacked everywhere in a state of rage, which gave Huang Tian an opportunity to take advantage of. Big guy, give me your life. In a flash, several more immortal heavenly swords chopped down. This time, Huang Tianmu gathered all his strength and used the killing power of the heavenly sword several times, overlapping each other, and finally tore apart the physical defense of the red Qilin. Boom! The ground shook violently, and the black unicorn, which was hundreds of thousands of feet tall, fell down. Its huge head was separated from the Qilin's body, and the Qilin's blood flowed out like a river. Seeing this scene, Huang Tian felt extremely painful. In this ancient world, there are three innate divine beasts: the dragon, the phoenix and the unicorn. To him, any item from them is a priceless treasure. It's such a pity to let it go to waste in front of me like this. However, Huang Tian had no time to collect it at this time, because another huge monster was coming towards him. It was another huge black unicorn. You despicable insect, die. The black Kirin was also furious at this moment. Huang Tian's actions just now were too fast. Although they seemed complicated, they were all completed in the blink of an eye. Even if the black Kirin wanted to rescue, it was too late. It could only watch with its own eyes a member of its own tribe being killed in front of it, and the killer was a weak delicacy in its eyes. This was a huge humiliation for these two Qilins who were at the Hongchen Xian realm. The place where Huang Tian was soon covered by a large shadow. A huge and terrifying Qilin hoof fell from the sky and completely enveloped him with the force of thunder, leaving him no chance to dodge at all. Boom! The earth shook violently, and countless terrible cracks spread rapidly. With the black unicorn as the center, a huge pit of tens of thousands of feet was formed. A violent and terrifying force was raging, with great destructive power. On the ground, the crystal phoenix blood splattered along with its broken body. Huang Tian's figure was stepped on, and he looked very miserable. Seeing this scene, the black unicorn let out a long roar towards the sky, as if venting his immense anger. But before he could be happy, the crystal phoenix blood and the broken body in the huge pit turned into wisps of green smoke and dissipated into thin air. At the same time, above the black unicorn's head, a five-colored glow shone, and a bright machete reappeared. The knife light was cold and the killing intent was endless. Even the black unicorn felt a chill all over his body at this moment. Roar! But soon it also reacted and let out a thunderous roar. A huge and ferocious unicorn claw slapped out fiercely. Although he couldn't understand how that damn mixed feathered bird could avoid his large-scale fatal magical power. But the scene before him made Black Kirin alert and careful. Boom boom. The terrifying and violent power erupted again. The Qilin claw glowed all over, and divine power gushed out continuously, firmly resisting the immortal heavenly sword. But this subtle confrontation lasted less than a breath. Then the Black Kirin was horrified to find that his Kirin claw, which had been invincible, was actually somewhat unstoppable. The next moment, in Qilin's huge pupils, there was only a cold and sharp heavenly sword that kept getting bigger. The Qilin's claws were chopped off, and the Black Qilin's huge head was also chopped off. How can it be? This was the former's last thought before he died. It never understood until its death that the mixed blood phoenix was only at the celestial fairy level and its cultivation was weak. How could such a fierce and terrifying force erupt in an instant? It's a pity that this big Qilin will never have the chance to know. The earth shook violently, and another ferocious Qilin beast was killed. Roar! The seriously injured real dragon in the distance also held to the sky. It was also shocked by the sudden change in the battle situation. Then he dragged the bloody dragon body into the air. This dragon is really scary. The phoenix on the opposite side is so weird. With his weak celestial immortal realm, he was able to kill 2 Qilins at the mysterious immortal realm with a single strike. Although everyone had already been seriously injured and their magic power had been greatly damaged, only 1/10 of it remained. But a Xuanxian is a Xuanxian after all. The difference in realm is as great as the gap between heaven and earth in terms of power, and is immeasurable. At this time, the true dragon has reached the middle stage of the Xuanxian realm. But he didn't dare to fight any longer and could only flee far away. Dragons come from clouds, tigers come from wind. Dragons have always been known for their speed, which can be said to be the best in the world. But Huang Tian at this moment is even faster than him. Since when, colorful fairy light has been shining around the real dragon. 1, 2, 3 Huang Tians appeared mysteriously and silently. In their hands, they all held a blood-red sword. In just a moment, countless sharp sword lights swept over. This real dragon, which was tens of thousands of feet long, felt a sharp pain in its body. Zzz. Fiery sparks burst out, like lightning, across the void. This tremendous pain also made the real dragon roar towards the sky. He struggled with all his might, trying to escape. But it is wishful thinking. 3 blood-red imperial swords, with flowing light, as red as blood, as if they had drunk the blood of billions of lives, it was terrifying. Plus the addition of Huang Tian himself. With 1 original body and 3 incarnations, there is no suspense in this battle. In the end, the immortal heavenly sword in Huang Tian's hand forcefully tore through the dragon's layers of scales and armor defenses, and killed it. Roar! After an unwilling roar, the huge body of the real dragon fell completely from the sky. With a loud bang, it hit the ground, triggering an earthquake aftermath. In just a few breaths, he killed 2 Qilin beasts in the early stage of Xuanxian realm. Plus a real dragon in the middle stage of Xuanxian realm. In one battle, all 3 ancient beasts were killed. Huang Tian's first battle in the prehistoric world was a brilliant one. Chapter 7 The Inexplicable Sensation of the 3 Pure Ones of Kunlun Mountain. Amidst the flashing of 5-colored divine light, Huang Tian finally landed on the ground. Immediately, an idea came to his mind. The heavenly sword in his hand, the 3 Taoist bodies, and the 3 killing emperor swords all sank into his body. Hoo, this battle is really difficult and dangerous. At this time, Huang Tian's face was pale and sweat kept appearing on his forehead. In that battle just now, the 9 secret words of covering the sky were all secret words. There is also an upgraded version of the magic technique of 1 Qi transforming into 3 purities that I created through my own comprehension. In addition, there are many trump cards such as the Immortal Sky Sword, the 3 Killing Emperor Swords, etc. This battle can be said to be a full display of all the strength. Even so, the war was extremely dangerous. He himself suffered enormous losses. The unparalleled original power in the body has long been exhausted. Now he can be said to be at the end of his rope. At this moment, any ferocious beast that jumped out from the ancient times would be able to kill him easily. Brush. Huang Tian had no time to regulate his breathing and held on to his last breath. He stepped on the Xing character and ran away again while there was no strong enemy coming to the battlefield. Of course, before leaving, he did not forget to take away his own spoils. In this ancient world, there are 2 Qilins in the Xuanxian realm, plus a real dragon. For Huang Tian now, it is an extremely precious gourmet prey. As an immortal phoenix, he is best at plundering the fortunes of other living beings and achieving nirvana for himself. In an instant, Huang Tian and several mythical beasts disappeared without a trace. This is also because the battlefield here is the most marginalized area in the battle for supremacy among the dragon, phoenix and unicorn tribes. Otherwise, even if Huang Tian had supernatural powers and secret techniques, he would not be able to escape. I have to say, this is also his good luck. But what Huang Tian didn't know was that when he used the magic of covering the sky to kill the Qilin and the dragon with great difficulty. The wilderness is endless and far away, in the majestic Kunlun Holy Mountain. Two great masters with supernatural powers appeared one after another, and they seemed to have sensed something. They all woke up slightly from hundreds of thousands of years of cultivation. Why would such a mysterious aura cause my soul to have such an inexplicable reaction? What exactly is going on? In a cave on the top of Kunlun Mountain, an old man with white hair and beard opened his eyes and murmured. He is the head of the three pure ones, Laozi. He is also the authentic Pangu in the legend, and is entrusted with the great merits and legacy of the great god Pangu in creating the world. If we talk about their background and status, the three pure ones are undoubtedly the most top-notch ones in the prehistoric world, and it is hard to surpass them. Ever since the revival of the primordial spirit in Kunlun Mountain, the three pure ones have been staying in the Immortal Mountain and practicing hard. Now, the three brothers have already broken through to the peak of Deluo Jinxian in their cultivation. But even so, the three pure ones did not dare to step out of Kunlun Mountain easily. They all carry Pangu's original spirit and know how to seek good fortune and avoid disaster. In the current primitive world, the three tribes are fighting for supremacy and the killing is endless. This is the legendary terrifying catastrophe. Who dares to get involved easily? But now, Laozi was awakened by a strange and unknown aura. It seemed to be destined for him, and it also touched his Tao heart at the peak of the golden immortal realm. In his deduction, it came from the battlefield of the three overlords. Even someone as accomplished as Lao Su was somewhat confused and uncertain at this moment. It's a pity that the mysterious aura and Taoist rhythm disappeared in a flash. When Laozi used his magical powers and wanted to continue deducing, there was no trace of it. Helplessly, he could only sigh and feel sorry. Immediately Lao Su closed his eyes and once again entered into deep meditation and enlightenment. Of course, if Huang Tian were here, he would definitely understand the reason. In the previous battle between the three tribes, in order to kill the opponent with thunderous means, Huang Tian used all his strength, and performed all the magic arts of covering the sky like crazy. It includes the magical technique of transforming one qi into three pure ones. This is the supreme scripture he created based on the Taoist deity from the era of the great ruler of heaven. In addition, it was deduced and created by the Tao Te Ching of Laozi, the reincarnation of Tianzun in later generations. This magical power is based on his background as the pinnacle emperor of the human world and universe. The level of the secret technique that was created is naturally more powerful than the original version of Laozi on the original Earth. It is for this reason that the technique of transforming one qi into three pure ones came into being. Only then will it make me in this ancient world feel inexplicably. After all, this is also inextricably linked to the future Hunyuan Avenue in his world. It is no coincidence. On the top of Kunlun Mountain, in another cave, another of the three pure ones, Master Tongtian, is the same as his elder brother Laozi. But his perception is not as strong as Laozi's. But beside him, a spiritual sword was trembling slightly. The magic sword was able to communicate with the gods, and it seemed to sense something special from within. The clanging sound of swords never stops. Qingping, why do you react like this? Seeing this scene, the calm face of Master Tongtian also changed slightly. The Qingping sword is his spiritual sword. Having been together for countless years, they have already gained a mutual understanding. This was also the first time Tongtian saw Qingping revive on its own and make such a soft sound. From the sound of the Qingping sword, he felt a sense of surprise and excitement. It was as if in the vast world outside, there was another special opportunity belonging to Qingping's sword. Clang! With the last sound of the argument, the spirit sword Qingping actually rushed out of the cave on its own and disappeared. The sword heart has the same spirit, and also had a premonition of the ancient land. An extremely sharp sword intent emerged, yet it was inexplicably connected to its owner. Although the sword intent is still very weak, almost insignificant, it is particularly special. Even Qingping's sword itself couldn't calm down. Since his master has some concerns, he is unwilling to step out of the Kunlun Holy Mountain easily. Then let its companion spiritual sword go on a mission for its master. Far away in the vast land, Huang Tian was hiding in a corner. Naturally, he would not know what happened after his first battle in the prehistoric world. It will actually attract the attention of some legendary big guys. In the far north of the ancient world, in an extremely remote and desolate underground cave, Huang Tian was sitting cross-legged. Currently he was regulating his breathing. All around him, the flames of the immortal phoenix were burning fiercely. In the center of the flames, there was a huge body of a qilin floating. Huang Tian is using his own original Dao fire to refine the qilin's body. At every moment, unimaginable amount of pure qilin essence was being refined and absorbed by him. Fortunately, he had already set up hundreds or thousands of magic arrays in this cave. In addition, the broken stone serves as the center of the formation, isolating it from the outside world. Otherwise, the essence of a qilin in the Hongchen realm alone would be enough to attract all kinds of ferocious beasts in the vast expanse of millions of miles. Time passed quickly and I didn't know how much time had passed. Under the burning of Huang Tian's original Taoist fire, qilin's body was overflowing with vitality, and its body was shrinking bit by bit at an extremely slow speed. But it was not until Huang Tian opened his eyes and woke up from his cultivation state. The huge qilin body in the air had only been refined by less than 1/10. Seeing this scene, Huang Tian couldn't help but sigh. As expected, he is one of the three dominant creatures in the prehistoric Dragon Han catastrophe. It's just that the qilin bloodline at the most marginal level of the Hongchen realm is so difficult to refine. If I want to refine them all and completely integrate them into my immortal phoenix body, it seems that there is still a long way to go. For me, this is a happy trouble. Chapter 8. Covering the world of the gods, the evil supreme being. With the help of qilin's life essence, he quickly recovered. Now he finally had the opportunity to seriously consider his current situation. Through the first battle in the prehistoric times, he fought against real dragons and unicorns at close range. Huang Tian also had a general idea of his own cultivation level in the prehistoric world. In the original cultivation world, he is the supreme immortal emperor. The supreme god respected by all races in ancient times is endowed with endless brilliance. And now, he was led to the primitive world by that broken stone. This level of cultivation, which is comparable to that of the heavenly emperor, is far from enough. The great prehistoric cultivation system is roughly divided into human immortals, earthly immortals, celestial immortals, mysterious immortals, Taizan immortals, golden immortals, Deluo golden immortals, quasi-sages, and saints. Huang Tian is now roughly at the celestial immortal realm. In the great calamity of the ancient dragon in Han, he, a phoenix, was not even cannon fodder. What a pity, now is not the right time. The Zishao Palace's preaching has not yet begun, and the complete system of prehistoric immortal cultivation has not been passed down. Huang Tian's mind was churning, and he said secretly. Otherwise, he could just start practicing according to the mainstream method of cultivating immortals in the ancient times. As for the present, Huang Tian was in a dilemma. Although he is a fairy phoenix, he also belongs to the phoenix bloodline, one of the three overlord clans. But he was purely an outsider. He didn't have the so-called phoenix clan's bloodline inheritance and cultivation method at all. As for those ancient and innate saints, each of them has an incredibly powerful background. As soon as he is born, he has the Taoism and magical powers of a golden immortal or even a Deluo golden immortal. If Huang Tian wants to build relationships with those super bosses or curry favor with them, who would care about him? If you are not careful, you may be slapped to death. After thinking it over for a while, Huang Tian stared intently. The huge qilin body floating in the void. After a long time, he finally made up his mind. The purpose of cultivation is to go against the will of heaven. Now that I have come to the great world of prehistoric times, I must give it a try. This time, I will use these three great beasts to rebuild my immortal phoenix supreme Tao foundation. After saying that, Huang Tian gritted his teeth, and the blood of the immortal phoenix in his body boiled. But in the next moment, his breath began to weaken at an alarming speed. He is destroying his own cultivation. He completely destroyed his peerless cultivation that was comparable to that of a heavenly emperor. Just like the emperor in the mythical era of Shrouding the Sky. In this time, Huang Tian cut himself very hard. All the long years of hard training in lifetime after lifetime were cut off. At this time, Huang Tian had already fallen from the position of emperor. But his aura was still declining rapidly, until finally, he almost became an ordinary creature. Clang, clang, clang. All around Huang Tian, The immortal sky sword was trembling and also emitting bursts of wailing sounds. Tian Dao understood his thoughts and was also worried about his master. Buzz. In the dark and remote underground cave, Huang Tian's act of self-destruction was still going on, and the sky was shining with colorful rays of light. But it became increasingly dim. Tisk tisk tisk. At this moment, chaotic light shone, and a mysterious light source emerged. This is exactly what Huang Tian called the golden finger. That piece of broken, black stone. It actually bubbled again, floating in the void. Wisps of chaotic mist began to spread and surround Huang Tian. It was as if it was protecting him, and also as if it was covering up the various causes and effects of the ancient world for him. Amid the swirling chaotic mist, the broken stone also reflected a blurry scene. In the picture, there was a majestic ancient star floating. If Huang Tian was awake at this moment, he would be shocked. The ancient star in this picture is none other than the ancient Big Dipper star, which can also be called the Emperor Burial Star. The magical powers of the tattered black stone are truly incredible. Being in the vast world of prehistoric times, one can actually reflect the universe of the human world of Shrouding the Sky. At this moment, the scene in the void changed. In the endless sea of stars, two figures of living beings emerged. They stood in the depths of chaos, seemingly discussing something with each other. Busi, now the immortal mausoleum and the god ruins have been frightened by our attacks. All kinds of immortal treasures and magical medicines that should be looted have been collected. Among all the life-restricted areas, we are the only one left. Next, we should make some careful plans and take action against the Heaven Burial Island. It's a good opportunity to take this opportunity to find out more about this guy in advance. What do you think? One of the creatures spoke. He was wearing a golden Taoist robe, his eyes were gleaming with excitement and an indescribable evil spirit. This person was none other than the two Taoist bodies that Huang Tian had transformed from his own immortal phoenix essence and blood before he was forcibly dragged through the prehistoric world. And now, these two guys seemed to have caused quite a stir in the human world of Shrouding the Sky universe. The chaotic light flowed, and the picture became clearer. The young man with an evil face and the Taoist priest opposite him, who looked dull and honest, twitched their mouths slightly. Tian Xie, your current actions have already gone beyond the plan set by me. I think we need to think about this matter carefully. The immortal Taoist shook his head and refused. He really felt a headache about this creature in front of him, who was also transformed by his original body Huang Tian. The deity suddenly left and his whereabouts are unknown. This guy started to act lawless. He even forced him to join forces and directly attacked Shanling, one of the 7 forbidden areas of life. The excuse is, something happened to me, and I want to complete his unfinished goals for him. As a result, the ancient star Beidou, which had just calmed down for a short time, once again caused endless waves. Tianxi and the immortal Taoist, one in the light and the other in the dark, the two emperors joined forces and broke into the immortal mausoleum. The ancient supreme beings in several life-forbidden zones can no longer hold back. First there was the disaster of the immortal mountain, the sky collapsed, the earth broke, and the supreme was shed blood. Then the supreme lord of the Samsara Sea was killed, and the Taichu ancient mine was attacked. Now that damn bastard is starting to make trouble again. This shit, is this ever going to end? Thus, a supreme war that shook the world and affected the entire human universe began again. In countless star fields, billions of lives were trembling. In the end, in the forbidden area of the immortal mausoleum, the blood of the supreme was splattered, and the painful roar of the supreme resounded throughout the universe. The person who was in control behind the scenes reaped a lot of rewards, and just walked away with a pat on the back. The incarnation that was originally called by Huang Tian as his real name even changed his title to Tianxi. It means, the most evil one in the world. The immortal Taoist just couldn't figure it out. They are both incarnations of the original body, so why is the guy in front of me so different and weird? The unscrupulous and crazy behavior made him a little frightened. In fact, what the immortal Taoist doesn't know is that he and Tianxi correspond to two completely different styles of Huang Tian. Immortality is dominated by the bloodline of the Immortal Emperor Phoenix, and has always been cautious and seeks stability. On the other hand, Tianxi is the true self-revelation of certain aspects of Huang Tian's nature. To put it more intuitively, it is what the time traveler Huang Tian looked like in his previous life. However, when Huang Tian's original power reached its peak, he could sweep away all the supreme beings and go deeper and deeper in the realm of the Emperor. The bad temper of my true self, which had been suppressed for countless years, began to let go. I'm afraid even Huang Tian himself could not have expected this. Chapter 9. Falling into the Imperial Realm, trying to turn himself into a life-restricted zone. Therefore, the accumulation of various unexpected and coincidental factors created Tianxi, an alternative and strange guy. Busi, don't be so cautious, okay? You know, on the current Emperor burial star, both you and I are peak emperors. Compared to those old guys who are still alive and have killed themselves in the forbidden zone of life, they are much stronger. If you stay like this, it will damage my reputation as the supreme god of all races. Seeing that his plan failed, Tianxi rolled his eyes and continued to instigate. He has finally taken advantage of the fact that the master is not around, so he must seize the opportunity and make some big noise. Improve your strength as soon as possible. No, the Sky Burial Island is the most mysterious and terrifying of all the forbidden areas for life, and it involves a lot. Over the long years, even I have never acted rashly. Tianxi, you can't act on your own. The immortal Taoist still shook his head and refused. He has always been cautious and steady, so he will not continue to accompany Tianxi, this madman, to do whatever he wants. If any unpredictable disturbance really happens, the consequences will be disastrous. Hey, Booty, you are really too rigid and boring. Well, since you are unwilling to join forces with me, I will do it alone. I want to see what kind of shocking secrets are buried in this heaven burial island. Tianxi snorted coldly, and then he was about to leave. He finally realized that it was impossible to reason with this immortal Taoist. The only effective method is to act first and report later. Now that things have come to light, Tianxi doesn't believe that the immortal Taoist can just sit there and watch. At worst, I can just divert the trouble away and find him a few supreme opponents. Buzz. Just when Tianxi was thinking about his own plan and was about to take action. His body suddenly shook, and then crystal clear blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. What exactly is going on? My cultivation level at the pinnacle of the Imperial Way is actually decreasing. Roar, damn it, stop right now. At this moment, Tianxi lost his composure and roared wildly. The scene happening at this moment was too weird. Not only him, but also the immortal Taoist beside him was the same. The two supreme emperors seemed to be suffering from some kind of strong backlash and suppression at this moment. They were horrified to find that the foundation of their imperial way was crumbling and could fall at any time. Ah, I see. It must be that bastard of mine. This guy is too cruel. He has already disappeared without a trace, but he still attacked us from a distance. Or is it that this guy has encountered an unexpected accident and is about to die? At this time, Tianxi was a little panicked and growled quickly. He was born with great difficulty, and as soon as he appeared on the scene, he had the cultivation of the imperial realm and could kill the ancient supreme beings. Before I even had time, I burst into invincible glory and brilliance. How could he easily accept such a tragic result? Ah, my lord, I was wrong. I was confused and shouldn't have gone against your plan. Please be magnanimous and let me go. Stop chopping. If you continue, I'll be finished. Feeling the cracks in his body's imperial foundation still spreading wildly, Tianxi's face was filled with panic. At this moment, he was also really terrified. This bastard really intends to be ruthless to them. Unfortunately, no matter how he roared or how he struggled using various supreme techniques, it was of no avail. Compared to Tianxi's crazy roar, the immortal Taoist was much calmer. He stood where he was, with the aura rolling around him, allowing the foundation of the imperial way in his body to continue to break down. Since this is what the deity wants, then follow his will. The immortal Taoist didn't have the slightest thought of resisting. In his opinion, even if he was suppressed by the master, it was better than following that bastard Tianxi, doing whatever he wanted, and living in fear all day long. Click. Under the influence of this weird and mysterious invisible force, Tianxi and the immortal Taoist both emitted a crisp cracking sound in their bodies. Then both of them staggered back, their faces pale. It's over, it's completely over now. My peak imperial cultivation, this deity, you bastard, I will never let you go. Feeling the imperial foundation that had long been shattered in his body, Tianxi looked as if he would rather die than live. He clenched his fists and said hatefully. But as he spoke, his confidence obviously weakened a lot, for he was afraid that this bastard would continue to be ruthless to him next. Just wiped him out. Time passed minute by minute, and Tianxi and the immortal Taoist stood in the endless chaos. It was not until a long time later that Tianxi finally breathed a sigh of relief. The backlash of this mysterious and evil power finally disappeared. It's over. We can't conquer Heaven Burial Island anymore. Immortal, let's make a plan and head to Beidou Emperor Burial Star, and turn it into a life-restricted area for us to practice in seclusion. Tian Xie shook his head, full of reluctance. He used to be so high-spirited and ambitious, pointing fingers at everyone in the world, and he didn't even take the supreme beings in the life-forbidden zone seriously. Now, he has inexplicably fallen from the peak Emperor realm and his strength has been greatly damaged. His overall combat power is probably on par with those old immortals he has killed in the restricted area. How could he and the Undying One alone defeat so many Forbidden Zone Supreme Masters? What? We are already in this state, and you still dare to go to Beidou Burial Emperor Star? Hearing this, the immortal Taoist's eyelids twitched violently and he was speechless. This guy Tianxi had caused a series of earth-shaking disturbances in Beidou before, which almost caused the supreme beings from several major life-forbidden areas to come out in full force. Given their current weak state, if they were to show up, they would be torn to pieces by the supremes immediately. Tianxi alone is responsible for the lives of no less than 5 supreme beings. You are wrong about not dying. The most dangerous place is the safest place. Right now, both you and I have been severely injured, and our cultivation has been greatly reduced. It is definitely not suitable for us to start another supreme battle. But the old guys in those life-restricted areas can't afford to waste time either. As long as we remain secretive and turn ourselves into a restricted area, even if those old immortals want to take action, they will have to think carefully before doing so. It's just a test or two at most. With you and me guarding the restricted area, this little storm will naturally be no problem. The most important thing is that only the Emperor Burial Star can provide the legendary opportunity to become an immortal. If we want to restore our cultivation to the Emperor realm as soon as possible, we must give it a try. Tian Xia's eyes flickered as he spoke in a deep voice. Although he looks evil and lawless, he still has some brains. After experiencing an inexplicable backlash, Tianxi began to seriously think about the ways and means of his own recovery. In short, we must go to the Emperor Burial Star, and we must also unite with our old friend the Immortal. Only if the two of them stick together can they make a comeback in the future and reach the pinnacle of the Imperial Way again. Chapter 10. The catastrophe has not yet ended, and the Phoenix, one of the 3 overlords, appears. The land of the extreme north. A remote and dark underground cave. Huang Tian's Nirvana reconstruction was still going on. At this moment, he was surrounded by wisps of chaotic energy. His own cultivation of Taoism has been weakened to the extreme. In the mid-air, a huge part of the Qilin's body was still floating, with a ball of blazing flame burning in it. That is Huang Tian's original Tao fire. It was the only thing he kept after he cut off everything he had. It is also the most important source of his immortal Phoenix Taoism foundation. In the later life of Zhan Tian, Yi He, who reached the realm of Heavenly Emperor, was also like this. He cut off his holy body, destroyed his chaotic body, and returned to the most ordinary mortal body. But Huang Tian wouldn't do that. His immortal Phoenix bloodline is too precious. Especially after traveling back to the ancient world, the bloodline of the immortal Phoenix also belongs to the 3 tribes of Phoenixes. Although the bloodline levels are quite different. But this Phoenix bloodline contains endless potential and a very high upper limit. Huang Tian certainly wouldn't be so stupid as to lose everything at once. What he has to do now is to try his best to improve his own potential and continuously advance his immortal Phoenix bloodline. Chi. Under the burning of the original Taoist fire, the huge body of the Qilin is also shrinking bit by bit. At this moment, his body turned into an infinite black hole vortex, continuously absorbing the life essence of the Qilin. His own immortal Phoenix Tao foundation is also slowly strengthening with the passage of time. There was no time in the ancient times, and no one knew how many thousands, tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of years had passed. This boring and dead state of cultivation is still continuing. On this day, in the cave, Huang Tian, who was meditating in seclusion, suddenly opened his tightly closed eyes. A huge and surging life energy is surging wildly. But he soon restrained himself completely. The most difficult and dangerous step in this training has finally been taken. Feeling the transformation in his body, Huang Tian couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. Under the refinement of 2 huge unicorns and a divine dragon, the life essence and blood energy of the 3 divine beasts. This time his transformation into the immortal phoenix Nirvana was completed relatively smoothly. At this moment, his level of Taoism was only at the earthly immortal realm. Compared with the previous celestial realm, it is a big drop. But the strength of his bloodline in this immortal phoenix body has advanced by more than one level. If his potential was compared to a river in the past, it would have turned into a vast ocean by now. I have completed my training this time, and it is time to travel around this vast land. After a simple adjustment, Huang Tian no longer hesitated, turned into a ray of divine light, and rushed out of the cave. He now also urgently wants to know how far the situation in this ancient world has developed. Has the catastrophe of the dragon, phoenix and unicorn tribes come to an end? In Huang Tian's expectation, it would be best if it could end. In this way, he was able to survive the catastrophe safely. It was just that when Huang Tian's aura was restrained and he walked on the vast and desolate land again, he was still disappointed. The earth's shaking roars and howls were still echoing, and dragons, phoenixes, and unicorns could be seen everywhere, with the three tribes fighting fiercely. It is even more tragic and terrifying than in the past. The aura of catastrophe in this world is so dense that it is frightening. I think maybe I should go back to seclusion and practice for a while. Looking at the horrific and extremely tragic battlefield of the three tribes fighting in all directions in the distance, Huang Tian couldn't help but sweat on his forehead. The prehistoric world during this period was too damn dangerous. Damn, there are wars everywhere on the vast and endless land, and the figures of the three tribes of divine beasts are everywhere in every corner of the prehistoric world. The sky and the earth were all bloody. Endless killing enveloped the entire vast world. Who can stand this? Huang Tian now has only one thought, and that is to hide. He continued to carry forward the spirit of cultivation he had cultivated in the world of Shrouding the Sky, focusing on survival. He will survive until the great catastrophe of the prehistoric dragon in Han is over, and then he will jump out. Roar! Just when Huang Tian was cautiously performing a secret technique and wanted to escape far away, suddenly, the area where he was shrouded in a large shadow. Then a huge and boundless creature descended from the sky, carrying an incomparable hot breath. No way, my luck is so bad that I got discovered again so soon. Feeling the majestic and fierce aura, Huang Tian's mouth twitched. But now was not the time to think so much. In a flash, he used his body skills to dodge at an extremely fast speed. Rumble! A loud bang shook the 10 directions, and the huge and boundless creature slammed heavily to the ground. With it as the center, a huge pit with a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles soon formed. After the smoke and dust cleared, Huang Tian looked at the figure of a creature in the huge pit with a look of astonishment. That is, the blazing and surging flames were raging, almost distorting the endless void. In Huang Tian's vision, it was actually a phoenix. But it was obvious that this phoenix had already been seriously injured and was even dying. Even so, Huang Tian was still extremely alert and cautious. He hid in a very remote place and observed secretly without doing anything impulsive. That phoenix was much more powerful than the Qilin and the dragon that Huang Tian killed at the beginning. Even though they were separated by such a long distance, Huang Tian still felt a strong sense of oppression and trembling. According to his estimation, this Qilin must be at least in the late Xuanxian realm, or even stronger. As for the specifics, it has reached a terrifying level. Of course, Huang Tian now cannot tell the difference. The only thing he could do now was to be patient and observe secretly. As soon as any wind blows the grass, it immediately puts on the grease and runs away like crazy. As time passed, the three tribes continued to fight in the vast world, and the earth's shaking roars and shouts echoed for a long time. Huang Tian just hid in the dark, concentrating on observing the huge phoenix that was seriously injured and dying. The latter, however, did not move a single step and fell into an extremely huge pit. Its phoenix body was completely red and divine fire was surging, even though its life breath was extremely weak. But this kind of phoenix flame is still so domineering that it has the power to burn everything in the world. During this period, Huang Tian also clearly discovered that in this extremely desolate and secluded place, some other terrifying prehistoric beasts also appeared. They all gathered here from all directions and stopped far away. Obviously, such a terrifying and powerful phoenix body fell from the sky. It also attracted all the dormant wild beasts in this vast and desolate mountain area. However, intimidated by the power of the three overlords, within a short period of time, no ferocious beast dared to step forward easily. It was not until several days later, when the flames around the huge phoenix body in the center were completely extinguished, and the ferocious and majestic power also completely disappeared. This vast and desolate area was in complete turmoil. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 11: A magical treasure descended from heaven, the chosen one. Roar, roar, roar. One after another, the ferocious and huge prehistoric beasts attacked. The earth was shaking, and a boundless murderous aura was sweeping across the sky. An unprecedentedly brutal battle broke out. They were a variety of ferocious beasts from the ancient times that Huang Tian had never seen before. Each one was huge and boundless, stretching across the earth like an ancient mountain. Huang Tian naturally didn't dare to easily participate in such a terrible melee. Although the huge body of the phoenix made him very jealous and he wanted to get it urgently. But compared to his own life, he still forced himself to suppress the impulse in his heart. On the earth, more and more ferocious beasts and alien species gathered, and the battle became more and more brutal. Countless ferocious beasts were killed and fell to the ground every moment. The area within 1,000,000 miles was filled with blood like a river, which was extremely creepy. Of course, this kind of scene is perfectly normal for all living creatures in the ancient world. This time, in order to snatch the legendary body of the phoenix, all the ferocious beasts in the ancient times were completely bloodthirsty. In this vast land, the strong prey on the weak are eliminated, killing and fighting are eternal themes. One's own strength is the most important. The phoenix in front of you is one of the 3 overlords of the phoenix clan. Under normal circumstances, most of the prehistoric beasts would naturally retreat and not dare to provoke easily. But now, the phoenix has died, leaving only such a huge and boundless phoenix body fallen here. Of course, the ferocious beasts of the ancient times will not let it go. In order to become stronger, to increase their strength, and to improve their chances of survival, the fight among the ancient beasts has already entered a white-hot stage. Even Huang Tian, who was used to seeing life and death, and had killed countless lives in the world of Zhutian and reached the throne of the emperor, couldn't help but feel terrified. In the horrific and brutal melee, more and more ferocious beasts fell. Finally, some powerful and ferocious prehistoric beasts were getting closer and closer to the huge phoenix. Roar! At this moment, the phoenix that had already fallen suddenly opened its eyes. A sharp and huge whistle sounded in all directions, and soon after, the terrifying phoenix divine fire raged. For a moment, all the ferocious beasts in the ancient times were terrified and fled frantically. Unfortunately, the fire on the phoenix's body was too overbearing. The divine flame swept across the world, and wherever it went, all tangible objects were burned to ashes. The hundreds or thousands of prehistoric ferocious beasts rushing ahead naturally could not escape the disaster. In an instant, more than 99% of all kinds of prehistoric beasts in the vast battlefield were destroyed, and most of them did not even leave any corpses. Damn it, this phoenix is actually pretending to be dead. In the extremely far place, Huang Tian's eyes widened with shock on his face. This phoenix was actually capable of such an operation, even he was completely deceived. It came immediately, and he felt a sense of luck in his heart. Fortunately, I was cautious and did not approach the battlefield easily, otherwise, the outcome would be unimaginable. However, in the center of the huge pit in the distance, after the huge phoenix unleashed a powerful attack, the divine fire around it was extinguished again, and its life breath also dissipated. The domineering and terrifying attack just now was more like its dying counterattack after it had exhausted its last bit of strength. This time Phoenix is completely finished. What made Huang Tian feel regretful was that there were far more than just Lao Lu present. At the edge of the battlefield, huge and terrifying prehistoric beasts appeared one after another. The murderous aura emanating from these huge monsters is no weaker than that of the first batch. At this time, they were also slowly approaching the huge, already cold phoenix from all directions. Alas, the most painful thing in the world is to have a heaven-defying opportunity in front of you, but you don't have the ability to obtain it. What a pity for such a powerful phoenix. Huang Tian hid in the darkness far away, staring at the direction of the battlefield, muttering. If he could obtain such a powerful phoenix bloodline, it would definitely be an unimaginable great opportunity for Huang Tian. Its use is far more powerful than the 2 unicorns and the dragon he killed at the beginning. Now, he can't do anything and can only watch. Just when Huang Tian was feeling extremely regretful and sad, something unexpected happened. At the end of the sky and earth, a bright light flashed across. The next moment, the sound of a clear sword rang out in all directions, and a flash of light appeared. Huang Tian suddenly saw an ancient and mysterious sword in front of him. The long sword floated in the void, simple and majestic, with a layer of hazy light surrounding it. Although this sword has not yet revealed its earth-shattering power, just standing there, it gives all living beings a vague, extremely subtle sense of deterrence and trembling. What is this situation? The spirit sword from heaven recognizes me as its master. Looking at the spiritual sword floating quietly in front of him, Huang Tian was also a little stunned. This is also the most bizarre and strange thing he has encountered since he came to the prehistoric world. The magic sword not far away, although its edge was restrained, did not reveal any extremely sharp sword intent. But Huang Tian already knew that this thing was definitely not an ordinary item. During the prehistoric Longhan catastrophe period, any magical weapon with spiritual power could be called a peerless spiritual treasure. The spiritual sword in front of me definitely belongs to this category. As for how incredible it had reached, Huang Tian naturally couldn't tell. Of course, now is not the time to worry about these messy things. The most important thing is, why did this mysterious sword of unknown origin appear in front of him? First, the phoenix, the overlord of the three tribes, appeared, and then this mysterious spiritual sword descended. Could it be that I am also a person of great luck in this vast world, a blessing for those who travel through time, the legendary chosen son of heaven? Huang Tian stared at the spiritual sword not far away, his eyes full of heat, and murmured. Unfortunately, no matter how he opened his mouth and tried to communicate with the spiritual sword, there was no response from the other side. Just floating in midair. This strange behavior made Huang Tian confused for a moment. Damn it, since this is a blessing from heaven, there is no reason not to take it. I'm going to risk it and give it a try. After thinking for a long time, Huang Tian finally couldn't hold back the intense heat in his heart, so he gritted his teeth and stepped forward, reaching out his hand with trepidation to grab the sword. But what surprised Huang Tian next was that the process of taking the sword was extremely smooth. Without any surprise, he already grasped the mysterious sword in his hand. Well, it seems that my luck is indeed extraordinary, and I am chosen by heaven. With this magical sword I have obtained, my path to immortality will have hope. With the spirit sword in hand, even Huang Tian was extremely excited. From this magical sword, he truly felt an indescribable and extremely powerful sword spirit. This treasure is definitely not an ordinary spiritual treasure, it must have an extraordinary origin. But today this magic sword belongs to Huang Tian. Spiritual sword, since you have chosen me as your master, I will name you, Immortal Phoenix Sword. From now on, you and I, each with our own sword, will be equal, and together we will conquer this vast and desolate world. At this time, Huang Tian held the magic sword in his hand and laughed heartily. Although there are still many doubts and puzzles about today's events, the great excitement and joy still cover up the many suspicions in Huang Tian's heart. Just because he was so excited at that moment. Huang Tian, who was immersed in intense joy, did not know that when he uttered the three words, Immortal Phoenix Sword, the mysterious sword in his hand trembled slightly. Chapter 12 The Powerful and Terrifying, Immortal Phoenix Sword. Sonorous. The next moment, a cold sound of a metallic sword was heard. The spirit sword exploded without any warning. The sword shines brightly, and the immortal energy surges straight into the sky. Huang Tian, who was originally immersed in excitement, also flew into the sky. It was not until this moment that he suddenly realized that something was wrong. Hey, Shanfeng's sword, what are you doing? Stop it now. Feeling the strong wind and huge waves tearing through his body, Huang Tian also became a little panicked. Because he knew what the magic sword in his hand was going to do. He was millions of miles away, and that hideous and terrifying pit was getting closer and closer. There stood the body of an extremely terrifying phoenix. This magic sword is really powerful. He had just acknowledged him as the boss, and hadn't even taken the initiative to say hello to Huang Tian when he immediately exploded. The immortal sword was psychic, and might have sensed Huang Tian's innermost thoughts long ago. Or maybe it wanted to attack the phoenix itself. Shanjian, brother Jian, big brother Jian, your uncle Jian, stop making trouble, stop it now. After knowing the meaning of the immortal sword, Huang Tian's face turned pale. He didn't know how powerful this magic sword was. But he was sure that if he really rushed in, he would most likely be killed. At this time, in the boundless pit, the competition for the huge phoenix body has already entered a white-hot stage. One after another, the terrifying and ferocious beasts from ancient times were fighting frantically. The magical aura of each one is so powerful and boundless. At the very least, their cultivation level is above that of a Xuanxian. As for Huang Tian himself, although he had undergone a complete transformation, his bloodline potential had been unprecedentedly enhanced. But his cultivation of Taoism is only at the level of earthly immortal. If we rush forward like this now, isn't this simply sending a sheep into the tiger's mouth? I'm afraid that with my small body, any ferocious beast from the ancient times could easily swallow it. Unfortunately, no matter how Huang Tian resisted and struggled, it was useless. Even Huang Tian couldn't let go of the spirit sword. He was shocked to find that at some point, his palm had been completely glued to the spirit sword. There's no way to get rid of it. The immortal sword was shining with light and emitting sword beams, and it rushed towards the huge phoenix with the force of thunder. In just a moment, it reached the center of the battlefield. Swish swish. Its arrival instantly attracted the attention of many powerful and ferocious beasts in the area. There's nothing we can do about it, since this magic sword made such a huge noise. The sound of the sword resounded throughout the heaven and earth. Judging from its posture, it seemed that it did not take this group of ferocious beasts seriously at all. Roar! Just as the magic sword was about to reach the phoenix's real body, an extremely terrifying prehistoric beast appeared. It was covered with dense scales and had 9 heads. The whole body was filled with a murderous aura, and one innate rune after another appeared from between its eyebrows. The 9 heads roared at the same time, with such power that it was enough to shake the heavens and the earth. It was extremely terrifying. After that, one after another, the ferocious beasts from ancient times also took action. They had fought fiercely here for such a long time and had paid such a painful price. It took a lot of effort to kill the phoenix. How could he let other creatures snatch such a delicious food? This is a big trouble. Seeing this scene, Huang Tian's face turned pale. He understood that this time he had probably fallen into the den of a ferocious beast, and it was hard to predict whether good or bad would happen. Many ferocious beasts from ancient times surrounded and attacked, stretching out their huge claws, trying to smash the sword from heaven into pieces with one blow. An extremely tragic and murderous aura rushed straight into the sky with a rumbling sound. The attack of each ferocious beast from the ancient times was so fierce and terrifying, containing endless killing. This is the powerful creature that was born from the combination of endless innate spiritual energy and evil aura in the ancient world. Its innate advantage is too great. Sonorous. But at this moment, the immortal sword was not afraid at all, and it seemed as if it did not take these ancient ferocious beasts seriously at all. The sound of the sword trembled again, and an extremely sharp sword light swept across in an instant. The sword light was bright and fierce, like an endless galaxy running through the sky and the universe. Just one sword. The ancient ferocious beasts that had surrounded and attacked them screamed in agony. Huge cloud of blood mist rose up one after another, filling the sky and the earth. Wherever the sword flashed, it was extremely powerful, sweeping away everything, and there was no way to resist it at all. No way, so fierce. Huang Tian was also shocked at this moment. My magical sword is so powerful. Hundreds and thousands of prehistoric beasts seemed like ants in front of it. With one strike of the sword, most of them were killed, just like chopping melons and vegetables. Roar! The other prehistoric beasts were also terrified, realizing the horror of that immortal sword. At this time, no ferocious beasts dared to rush forward, but instead fled outside frantically. Clang, clang, clang. But at this time, the fairy sword seemed to have revived on its own, facing the ferocious beasts and creatures that had dared to attack and provoke it before. It has no intention of showing any mercy. Another ray of sword light swept across, and some prehistoric beasts that had already escaped tens or millions of miles away were completely killed. Among those present, only a few of the most powerful beasts were left, and they were seriously injured and dying, falling to the ground. In a breath of time, the battlefield of ferocious beasts, which was once filled with the deafening sounds of extremely brutal fighting, became completely quiet. In the center of the huge pit, only Huang Tian stood quietly, holding a magic sword. At the moment, he didn't even have the mind to look at the huge body of the phoenix beside him. The power displayed by the magical sword in his hand was so terrifying. Now holding it tightly in his hand, Huang Tian even felt it was a little hot. This magical treasure and sword must have an unimaginable origin, right? Even though Huang Tian was slow, he reacted now. Damn the spiritual treasure from heaven, the chosen one. Damn it, I'm not going to be targeted by some big shot in the ancient times just because I'm bragging like that, right? If this is true, is it a blessing or a curse for him? The battlefield was silent except for the endless surging of blood and energy, as the ferocious beasts from the ancient times were killed one after another. Between heaven and earth, a terrible bloody rain also formed. Huang Tian's thoughts were surging, and the mysterious sword in his hand fell silent again. The sword's brilliance faded, and its sword intent became restrained, returning to its original simple and unadorned appearance. Clank, clank. Just when Huang Tian was still pondering the mysterious origin of the magic sword in his hand. In the distance, the vast earth began to tremble violently again. Huang Tian was instantly awakened by such a violent noise. Then his pupils suddenly shrank and his eyes stared at the distant sky. There was a group of huge and terrifying figures, rushing towards them at an alarming speed. Chapter 13 Ancient Giants and the Primitive Witch Clan. Boom boom. In the distance, the earth and sky were rumbling and shaking, the noise was so loud. Amid the endless smoke and blood rain, there were figures like one ancient giant after another. Every step they took covered tens of thousands of miles. One after another, like a vast torrent, they rushed towards Huang Tian. A giant in the ancient world. Their forms are completely different from those of the ferocious beasts in the prehistoric world, but they are very similar to the human race that I know. Looking at the huge figures one after another, Huang Tian's face was full of horror. But he soon reacted. These ancient giant-like figures in front of us are probably the legendary witch clan in the prehistoric world. Clang, clang, clang. Endless murderous aura came from far away. The magic sword in Huang Tian's hand seemed to sense something again. The sword began to tremble again, and it seemed that this big guy wanted to rush out again and start killing. Seeing this scene, Huang Tian was shocked. Boss, this is unacceptable. Huang Tian quickly covered the mouth of the immortal sword with both hands. Damn it, you could just kill those ferocious beasts from the ancient times. But these ancient giant figures in front of us really can't be moved. The legendary witch clan. It was transformed from the essence and blood left by the great god Pengu at the beginning of the universe. The origin of the roots is also terrifyingly great. Moreover, the witch clan is not just a few hundred or thousands of them. They are the protagonists of heaven and earth in the next catastrophe. In the future, I will become one of the overlords in this vast land. Huang Tian didn't want to create enmity with the witch clan for no reason. Otherwise, how will he survive in this vast land in the future? My fellow Wu clan Taoists, I am Huang Tian. There is no hatred between us, so don't act rashly. Seeing one witch creature after another walking towards them, Huang Tian immediately stepped forward and spoke. The language he used was also the mainstream language in the ancient times. This was obtained after refining 2 unicorns and a divine dragon. At the center of the giant pit, the giant figures of the witch clan arrived. The leaders at the front have already raised their ferocious and fierce wolf-tooth clubs. It looks like he had already planned to take action to get rid of this small shrimp Huang Tian. But when they heard him speak on his own initiative, the giants of the Wu clan were also a little surprised. Of course, there are bigger reasons why they stay. It is also the mysterious and extraordinary magical sword in Huang Tian's hand. The giants of the witch clan have extraordinary blood and invincible bodies since birth. Now with close perception, they also immediately discovered the extraordinary nature of the magic sword in Huang Tian's hand. The phoenix body here, as well as the many fierce beasts and strange species, have all been coveted by our Wu clan as prey. Since you don't want to be our enemy, leave immediately. Among all the creatures of the Wu clan, a giant leader stood up and said in a muffled voice. Although it was a simple conversation, it sounded like thunder in Huang Tian's ears. These witch creatures speak so damn loudly. Huang Tian only felt that his ears were buzzing. Immediately, his mind moved, and he activated his supernatural powers, and his body began to enlarge. He didn't stop until he was about the same size as the other witches and could have a conversation with them on an equal footing. The giants of the Wu clan also looked at him in amazement. Now that they were staring at him equally, they also discovered that the creature in front of them was so similar to their Wu clan. Everyone, rest assured, since this phoenix is the prey that your Wu clan has set their sights on. Of course I won't make any more plans. I just have one more request. I have killed some of the ferocious beasts here before. I wonder if you can let me take a few away, and the rest will all belong to your Wu clan." Huang Tian clasped his fists and said. Although he was extremely reluctant to part with the huge body of the phoenix, at this critical juncture, he would definitely not be able to snatch it away by force. Even if he has this magic sword in his hand. But the witch clan is not a vegetarian. Once he starts to shake people, from now on, in this vast world, I'm afraid Huang Tian will no longer have a foothold. Think about it again, the legendary 12 ancestral witches were even more ferocious and powerful, and they even dared to challenge the saints. The only solution now is to keep quiet and leave as soon as possible. Of course, before leaving, Huang Tian still tried to take away some spoils. The giants of the witch tribe looked at each other, and finally the leading giant nodded. Okay, let's do as you say. The giants of the Wu clan did not make things difficult for Huang Tian. A creature whose appearance and physique were extremely similar to those of their own Wu clan. After saying that, all the giants of the witch tribe began to scatter to harvest the spoils. The few remaining powerful prehistoric beasts were easily killed by the wolf-tooth club of the witch giant in 1 or 2 hits, and blood splattered hundreds of feet high. Seeing this scene, Huang Tian felt a chill in his heart. This was also the first time he saw the daily hunting methods of these big guys from the Wu clan. Various oversized stone sticks, stone axes, and machetes were swung down fiercely. No matter whether it is a primitive beast or a ferocious beast, all of them must be killed. It is so rough, wild and unrestrained. Thank you, fellow Wu clan Taoists. Let's just say goodbye. After simply collecting the bodies of a few ancient beasts, Huang Tian said goodbye to the witch tribe in a straightforward manner. This place has already become a place of trouble today, and he absolutely cannot stay here any longer. A streak of light flashed across the sky, and Huang Tian floated away. The giants of the witch tribe didn't care much and continued to harvest various ferocious beasts and delicacies on the battlefield, as well as the huge body of the phoenix. A few days later, in a rather special vast and barren mountain area, Huang Tian was sitting cross-legged on a stone cliff. In front of him, there was a ferocious beast with a body size of tens of thousands of feet floating. An endless supply of blazing divine fire was burning below. This time, Huang Tian was not practicing, but was purely tempering the body of the ancient beast. Soon the aroma of meat began to spread, filling the entire vast mountain area. See, it's almost cooked. Huang Tian flipped his palm slightly, and a lot of messy materials appeared in his hand. Then all of it was poured onto the huge ferocious beast in the air. This action is called barbecue. Ever since Huang Tian traveled through time and space and came to the world of Zhutian. Although he replaced the Immortal Emperor and became the supreme god of all races. But during the long and endless years of cultivation, he would occasionally take action himself and roast some creatures from powerful races to taste the flavor. For example, some of the Qilin blood flows in the Huolin cave, and the blood of the ancient royal family flows in the Wanlong nest. Or maybe they are the ancient supreme beings that have special bloodline power. He is following the example of his predecessors. The predecessor of Zhutian, there was a super foodie who lived countless years ago before the chaotic ancient times. His catchphrase in his childhood was, "Eat, eat, eat it all." Now that he has arrived in the prehistoric world, Huang Tian has started doing this job again. Buzz. As the divine fire continued to surge, the fragrance around became stronger. And at this moment, the ground in the vast barren mountain area began to tremble violently. Feeling this big commotion, Huang Tian curled his lips and laughed softly. Finally here. Chapter 14. Hongwang Craftsman, Barbecue Master Huang Tian. Boom. The vast earth trembled violently, and a wild breath swept over. Soon, huge ancient giants appeared one after another in the boundless mountain area where Huang Tian was. It turned out to be a creature from the Wu tribe. They were of burly build, with their lower bodies wrapped in coats of unknown animal skins, and holding various stone sticks. Each one is as majestic as a mountain, exuding a strong aura of ancient wildness. What delicious meat! A giant tens of thousands of feet tall opened his mouth, and his voice was like thunder, shaking the surrounding mountains. Pairs of eyes as big as millstones were fixed on the huge body of the ferocious beast in front of Huang Tian. Continuously roasted by the blazing divine fire and combined with a variety of special seasonings, the meat of this ferocious beast has an extremely rich texture. In an instant, these giants of the witch clan were completely captured. They opened their eyes wide and drooled. Ha ha ha, such delicious meat, I have never heard of it before. Immediately, the burly men of the Wu clan strode forward and stretched out their big hands. He grabbed the body of the ancient beast that was shiny and oily all over. Huang Tian's so-called original divine fire and the terrifying high temperature on the body of the ferocious beast had no effect at all on these giants of the Wu clan. Just a few breaths. A prehistoric ferocious beast that was hundreds of thousands of feet long was eaten up in no time by a group of rough guys from the Wu clan. Even at this moment, they still felt a little unsatisfied. The meat of this beast is so delicious, it is truly the most delicious food in the world. It's a pity that there was too little. I didn't even have time to taste it and it was gone. A giant witch touched his abdomen and said with regret on his face. Haha, fellow Taoists from the Wu clan. I just roasted this beast meat. If you don't mind, I can roast some more for you. Huang Tian, who was not far away, spoke. At this moment, he was also speechless. You, such a bright and shining creature, are sitting cross-legged in front of the body of that ferocious beast. This group of barbaric men from the Wu clan didn't notice him at all. No, it should be said that he was completely ignored. Buzz buzz buzz. As Huang Tian spoke, his mind moved, and his body continued to expand until it was tens of thousands of feet high. Hey, you are so similar to Wu clan cultivators like me. The giants of the Wu clan finally reacted and noticed the existence of Huang Tian. Haha, fellow Taoist, you are very good. Just now you said that you could make similar beast meat for us. Among this group of witch giants, a big man who was the leader stepped forward and laughed. The giants of the Wu clan were also very curious about Huang Tian. This strange creature. But what makes them even more excited now is the extremely attractive and delicious meat that Huang Tian prepared. Their Wu tribe has developed in this vast land and has survived to this day, but they have never eaten such delicious food. Haha, since fellow Taoists from the Wu clan like it so much, I will do my best. Under the fiery gazes of the witches, Huang Tian decisively took out all the bodies of several ancient ferocious beasts that he had stored. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The divine fire burned brightly again, and soon the rich and fragrant aroma of barbecue wafted in the air again. Especially with the help of Huang Tian's various seasonings, the aroma of barbecue increased dramatically. The eyes of the Wu clan men beside them were red, and saliva kept dripping from the corners of their mouths. Gurgle. The hunger coming from their stomachs was like a huge thunder, violently echoing in the boundless mountain area. Haha, little brother, you are really straightforward. Today we will make friends with you. After saying that, some big men from the Wu clan could no longer bear it, stretched out their rough big hands, and directly grabbed the ferocious beast in the divine fire to roast meat. The other big men were not willing to be outdone. As a result, a wonderful sight appeared in this mountain area. A group of giant witches as big as mountains gathered together and ate the food frantically. In front of them, the bodies of those huge prehistoric beasts were shrinking rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. Just a few breaths later, several ferocious beasts from the ancient times were once again killed by these rough men from the Wu clan. Huang Tian, who was standing aside, also had a twitching mouth when he saw this. These rough men from the Wu clan were really honest. They didn't leave him even a single piece of barbecue. That's all Huang Tian has now. Little brother, is your barbecue still there? At this time, a big man from the Wu clan who seemed to be the leader stepped forward with a gentle smile on his rough face. But compared to his giant physique of hundreds of thousands of feet, no matter how gentle his expression is, it is scary enough. Fortunately, Huang Tian had already been mentally prepared before this. No more. The barbecued meat of the ferocious beasts just now is all I have stored. Huang Tian shook his head quickly. Are you kidding? All my family assets have been completely eaten up, how can I get any other stock? Is that so? Hee hee. Then we are a little embarrassed. Little brother, I think your appearance and straightforward style make you a good match for our Wu tribe. Why don't you follow us back to the tribe so that we can treat you well? Among the giants of the Wu clan, the leader spoke again. Since you are a fellow Taoist from the Wu clan and have invited me so warmly, I will not refuse. Thank you very much. Huang Tian walked forward, a look of joy on his face, and clasped his fists. This is what he was waiting for. In order to establish friendship with these rough men from the Wu clan as much as possible. These days, he has been working very hard, secretly staying there for a long time to find out the whereabouts of this vast witch tribe. After making sufficient preparations, we began to act. For this purpose, he did not hesitate to take out all his belongings and several ferocious beasts from ancient times. Today, he deliberately stayed not far from the territory of a small witch tribe and began his hard work in barbecuing. The hard work pays off. With his superb barbecue skills. Now, I finally have the opportunity to interact with the witch clan. Huang Tian was more than happy to be invited by the Wu clan men to visit their tribe. The present prehistoric world is still in the most terrifying period of the Hongchen catastrophe. The fighting between the three dominant races, the dragon, the phoenix and the unicorn, was extremely brutal and terrifying. This vast land is really too dangerous. It would be safer to hide in the witch tribe. So, under the warm greeting of a group of Wu clan men, Huang Tian also returned to the Wu clan tribe. But Huang Tian didn't know that this trip to the Wu tribe would also bring him some unexpected surprises, and even shocks. Chapter 15 The first kind of wine in the ancient world, Witch King wine. With his excellent and powerful barbecue skills. After Huang Tian first arrived at the Wu tribe, he was quickly welcomed. Many wild men from the Wu clan gathered together madly and surrounded Huang Tian in the center. His eyes were so fiery and he was drooling. That posture and that scene could easily make that person imagine. During this period, Huang Tian also revealed a unique skill. That's fine wine. Barbecue and fine wine have been a perfect match since ancient times. How can barbecue be enjoyed without good wine? So, after a few days, a supreme wine called wine came into being in the Wu tribe. As soon as it appeared, it caused a huge sensation. The rich and fragrant aroma of the fine wine, which had an extremely unique flavor, filled the entire small witch tribe. One after another, powerful men from the Wu clan came rushing in from all over the place. Looking from afar, there were tens of thousands of them, and the scene was quite scary. At this moment, Huang Tian had already become the focus of attention of all the men of the Wu clan. In front of him, there was a huge cauldron that was tens of thousands of feet long. Under the cauldron, a blazing divine fire was burning, and inside the cauldron, there was a pool of crystal clear and brilliant spiritual liquid that was constantly boiling. This is the magical wine that appeared for the first time in the ancient world. Under Huang Tian's crazy tinkering, he tried all the production methods of various super strong immortal wines in the world of Zhutian and countless materials of the Wu clan. After countless experiments, he finally created the unprecedented fine wine. Huang Tian even named it Witch King wine. He took one character from the names of the Immortal Emperor and the Witch clan. This Witch King wine has a remarkable origin. It is a peerless magical wine that Huang Tian had invented on his own in the world of Shrouding the Sky. Originally, his original intention was to combine all the immortality elixirs and the fragments of the legendary 9-transformation immortal pill, plus a large amount of immortal essence. So many heaven-defying divine materials are gathered in one furnace to create a truly fairy-grade wine. Unfortunately, due to various factors, it did not succeed as expected. But Huang Tian later created the slightly inferior, Emperor liquid. That kind of fine wine can be said to be the best in the human realm. In addition to having various miraculous effects such as prolonging the life of the Supreme Being. And the most important point is that the strength of this peerless wine is unimaginable. 1 cup of Emperor liquid is enough to knock down an ancient Supreme Being. Even Huang Tian, who was at the peak of the imperial path at that time and almost had the power of the Heavenly Emperor, could not drink more than 10 cups of Heavenly Emperor liquid. From this we can see that the intensity of this Emperor liquid is truly horrifying. Of course, this could also be Huang Tian's trump card to deal with the life-forbidden zone. It's a pity that he really couldn't bear to do it. The cost of brewing this Emperor's liquid is too high. Even a Supreme Emperor like him cannot withstand such multiple losses. It's not enough for me to drink. Who would be willing to give these peerless immortal wines to those old guys in the forbidden zone of life? But it's different now. In this primitive world, there is the blessing of the witch tribe. Since Huang Tian decided to brew an unprecedented and extraordinary fairy wine, he simply let go and made it boldly. After going through numerous hardships and dangers, the Witch King wine finally came out. In addition to its various magical effects, how strong is this Witch King wine? Even Huang Tian, the brewer, is not aware of this. In a word, it's absolutely intense. Brothers, the wine is ready. Enjoy it. Pay attention to the appropriate amount, and don't drink too much. Looking at the countless fiery and red eyes around him, Huang Tian could only helplessly say, clang, clang, clang. But before he could finish his words, a group of Wu clan men were already starving and thirsty. One after another, giant figures came running at high speed, vying to grab the delicious wine in the big cauldron. Gulu gulu. In the witch tribe, the sound of whales swallowing and cows drinking was heard continuously. Inside the huge and boundless cauldron, there was another world and an infinite space. At this time, the level of the brewed wine in the big cauldron was dropping rapidly. The big men of the Wu clan had a hearty drinking party. Seeing this, Huang Tian also shook his head. Although he also wanted to taste the peerless wine he brewed. But my strength doesn't allow it. With his current limited skills, let alone having a drink. If you get even a drop of it on you, you'll probably fall down immediately. The overwhelming magical energy might be enough to burst his small body. It's just so fierce and violent. Before this, when Huang Tian was brewing wine, he specially invited several of the most powerful leaders in the Wu clan to protect him. I was afraid that if I wasn't careful, I would be killed. Haha, what a joy. This is the best wine in the world, it's really unparalleled. We must contribute this peerless immortal wine to the masters of our ancestral witch tribe. After a hearty round of drinking, all the big men from the Wu tribe fell to the ground with their arms and legs spread out. There was a strong smell of alcohol coming out of everyone's mouth, and their faces were flushed. The blood in their bodies was surging wildly and they couldn't control it at all. Here it comes, the intensity of the imperial witch wine is backfiring at this time. Even these gifted men of the Wu clan, who had extremely strong blood and physical strength, could not withstand it. Huang Tian heard their words from a distance and his eyes moved slightly. The ancestral witch tribe. That was one of the biggest goals he had always wanted to get close to. The place where he is now is not one of the billions of small tribes of the Wu clan. It is too insignificant. At this moment, during the Hongchen calamity period, the witch clan kept a low profile and seldom had direct conflicts with the overlords of the three clans. But as a time traveler, Huang Tian knew it very well. The terrifying potential contained in this witch clan. They are not only the protagonists of the world in the next catastrophe, but also one of the future overlords of the primitive earth. This lineage also carries the bloodline of the great god Pangu. To this extent, the 12 ancestral witches of the witch clan are the same as the 3 pure ones of Kunlun Mountain. They all belong to the authentic Pangu category. His roots and background are also among the best among all the innate sacred beings in the ancient times. And the legendary Pangu temple stands on the top of the endless Bujo Immortal Mountain. It is also the greatest foundation of the witch clan. Even during the great calamity of wizards and demons in the ancient times, the 6 saints under the heavenly Tao had already attained the Tao of Hun Yuan, and stood high above, overlooking all living beings in the ancient times. But even they, the immortal and supreme saints, dare not set foot in Pangu temple in their true bodies. During this period of time, in this witch tribe, in addition to practicing diligently every day, Huang Tian was also thinking of ways to make some big moves. The purpose is to attract the attention of the 12 super bosses in the endlessly distant Bujo Mountain. For this, the most delicious barbecue is added with the supreme fairy wine, the Witch King wine. The current situation is slowly developing in the direction Huang Tian expected. He looked up at the sky, his eyes flickering, and whispered to himself. The 12 ancestral witches, the legendary Bujo Immortal Mountain, when will I have the opportunity to set foot there? Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 16 The Belated Merit of Heaven. Buzz. Huang Tian shook his head and collected the many thoughts in his mind. After a while, he returned to the bronze tripod for brewing wine. Looking into the big cauldron, it was already empty, not even a drop of the Witch King's wine was left. The corner of Huang Tian's mouth twitched as well. These bastards are so cruel. They didn't even leave me a drop. At this time in the Wu tribe, giants were lying on the ground one after another. The snoring sounds were like thunder. This scene is really scary. Even these rough men from the Wu clan were drunk and unconscious. Ordinary ferocious beasts from ancient times would not dare to come here easily. But at this time, Huang Tian's heart moved. He suddenly thought of a very important question. Am I missing something? Looking at the huge bronze tripod in front of me. Huang Tian looked up at the sky again and murmured. Suddenly he slapped his forehead and came to his senses. Oh right, merit. Fuck, where did my merits go? Until this point, Huang Tian finally figured out the key to the matter. He had spent so much hard work and finally managed to brew this extremely rare and precious Witch King wine. This thing, how can you say it, is the first time since the creation of the world, right? The first kind of wine brewed in this vast world. According to the development trajectory of novels in the previous primitive world. Shouldn't this be the so-called reward for merit from heaven? Why have I waited for such a long time but haven't seen any merit at all? This is unscientific. No, this is the vast world of chaos. Who cares whether it's scientific or not? It shouldn't make sense. Or is it that the laws of nature are deliberately rejecting an outsider like me? Huang Tian looked depressed, pinching his chin and thinking. But soon he also shook his head. This possibility is not high either. With his current small body, is he worthy of the attention of the legendary Supreme Heaven? Besides, he had previously cut off all his Taoist cultivation. With the help of the original essence of the three ancient mythical beasts, he started his nirvana and rebirth. At the moment, he can be regarded as a qualified, primitive native. There is no reason for the laws of nature to withhold his merits. Or maybe I opened it the wrong way. Huang Tian frowned and walked back and forth around the witch clan's large cauldron. But after thinking for a long time, he couldn't think of any problem, which made Huang Tian very depressed. 3 days passed. There was still no trace of the heavenly merits that Huang Tian had been thinking about. He finally gave up. Fuck, it's all those ancient novels that are trying to fool honest people. Until the end once again. When Huang Tian carried the huge Witch King cauldron out of the witch tribe. When I want to search for some rare natural materials and spiritual essences. Buzz. Suddenly, above the vast sky, a dazzling light surged. Immediately, surging and rich golden auspicious clouds descended. It instantly enveloped Huang Tian and the huge bronze tripod in his hand. This legendary merit of heaven. Seeing this scene, Huang Tian was also confused. No way, the thing he had been thinking about for so long actually happened again. Tisk tisk tisk. In the desolate and boundless mountain area, the legendary merits of the heavenly Tao are descending. The golden light is dazzling and brilliant. Huang Tian just felt relaxed all over, and his soul almost floated in the air. The difficulties and confusions encountered in various ways of cultivation in the past. Now all of them have been eliminated. He seemed to be in a state of enlightenment. The incomplete cultivation methods of the three tribes of Phoenix, Qilin, and Dragon in the prehistoric world. They also emerged one by one in his mind. These are all the remaining life essences from the three divine beasts that Huang Tian had killed before and refined their blood. Until now, he has not been able to truly absorb it, nor could he comprehend it at all. It's good now. With the help of the auspicious clouds of heavenly merit, he had a complete epiphany. His own Taoist realm in the late earthly immortal realm was also stirring and began to improve slowly. Buzz. Just a moment. Huang Tian felt that his own Taoism and magical power had reached an extreme bottleneck. Accompanied by a clicking sound, he broke through. From the late stage of earthly immortal, he was promoted to the peak of earthly immortal in one fell swoop. Just when Huang Tian was planning to make a final push and take advantage of the situation to break through to the next great realm, all the wonderful and refreshing state of enlightenment came to an abrupt end. Everything was clear and bright again between heaven and earth. The golden auspicious clouds of merit and virtue that originally enveloped Huang Tian had long since disappeared. Damn, how come it's gone all of a sudden? Huang Tian was instantly awakened from his state of enlightenment and couldn't help but scream. Just when it was feeling the most wonderful and enjoyable, it was abruptly interrupted. This feeling is really indescribable. The amount of merit bestowed from heaven this time is really too little. At most, it is only a few dozen feet in size. Moreover, the merit of brewing wine is also divided into two. He and the big bronze tripod each occupied half. At this time, the mysterious and yellow aura of merit was flowing in the bronze tripod, surging. Huang Tian felt jealous when he saw this. This heavenly merit is a first-class super treasure in the prehistoric world. It can help people to practice enlightenment and improve their cultivation. It can also help one resolve karma and kill living beings without any karma. There are so many mysterious things. Even to the future period of the Lich Calamity. The legendary Nuwa Saint and other bigwigs also relied on their endless merits to achieve the Tao of Hunyuan. In the huge bronze tripod, the aura of mysterious and yellow merits surged. The big cauldron also began to shake. It was originally used by the rough men of a small Wu clan tribe to release the bodies of various wild and ferocious beasts. Although it is far from being the innate spiritual treasure as stated in the legend. But it can be considered as a good quality acquired spiritual treasure. Now he has unexpectedly obtained a ball of mysterious and yellow merit energy. This big cauldron is also slowly undergoing some changes. The mottled and ancient cauldron was also covered with a mysterious yellow aura, as if it was trying to undergo some kind of transformation. But soon the big cauldron shook. All the strange phenomena in the cauldron were restrained, and the cauldron returned to its ordinary state again. The cauldron of merit of all things. What a pity. Looking at the bronze tripod, which, like itself, stopped transforming halfway. Huang Tian's mouth twitched slightly. They are one person and one tripod, they really share the same fate. Once you have done it for the first time, there will be countless times to come. Brother Ding, let's continue working hard together. Huang Tian patted the bronze tripod, although this big tripod might not have developed its own consciousness yet. But Huang Tian still treats it like a good friend. This belated blessing from heaven also gave Huang Tian enough confidence. Relying on his advantage of foresight as a time traveler, he didn't believe that he couldn't gain more merit. At the same time, he finally realized a fact. It's not that heaven dislikes him. But I just don't like those rough and crude men from the Wu clan. Chapter 17 Buzhou Fairy Mountain and the 12 Ancestral Witches. If it weren't for this accident, he would have been able to carry the big tripod out of the territory of the Wu tribe. I'm afraid I'll really miss out on this legendary merit from heaven. Thinking of this, Huang Tian was speechless. I've placed all my hopes on the Witch clan this time. Is it reliable? Although the Wu clan is the protagonist of the next catastrophe of heaven and earth, and one of the future overlords of the prehistoric world, it can be seen that the heaven has an unfriendly attitude towards the Witch clan. Huang Tian also felt a little unsure. No matter what, improving my strength is the most important thing for me right now. Although the Wu clan is disliked by the heavenly Tao, the foundation and strength of this clan is still strong enough. In the end, Huang Tian shook his head vigorously, as if to comfort himself. In fact, at this moment, he had no choice but to make friends with the Witch clan. As for the legendary demon race, Huang Tian is willing to contact them. After all, the two brothers in the Sun Star, Dongwang Tai and Di Jun, are both super boss level figures. It was transformed from an eye of the great god Pangu, with a very profound origin and one of the most top-level innate divine beings. Moreover, the way of the sun divine fire that the other party practiced was also very compatible with the bloodline of the Huang Tian immortal phoenix. But what can be done? Huang Tian can't see the other party at all. No, let alone the two supreme demon emperors in the legend. Huang Tian now might not even be able to defeat an ordinary demon king in the prehistoric land. The ancient monsters are ferocious by nature and extremely powerful. If Huang Tian, the delicate and tender fairy phoenix, was caught by them by accident, he would have been swallowed up in one bite. The fact that he is able to make friends with the small tribe of the Wu clan is purely due to luck. Since by chance he had chosen to make friends with the Wu clan, Huang Tian had to hold on to this big thick leg tightly. He needs to work harder in this regard. He believes that sooner or later, he will be able to walk into the legendary Buzhou mountain. Time passed, and in the blink of an eye thousands of years had passed. Huang Tian was still calm and composed. He lived a stable life in the small Wu tribe. At this moment in the vast and ancient world, the catastrophes of the three tribes of dragon, phoenix and unicorn were getting more and more severe. Even the end of the sky had already been dyed blood red, which was extremely scary. Huang Tian has also been secretly paying attention to the trend of the quantitative catastrophe. He understood that if nothing unexpected happened, this great catastrophe of the ancient Dragon Han dynasty would probably be coming to an end soon. Even in the past few hundred years, the small witch tribe he belonged to has been greatly affected. They even faced several major crises of genocide, but fortunately they managed to survive them all in the end. However, the original number of tribesmen, which numbered hundreds of thousands, has been reduced to tens of thousands, almost shrinking several times. Huang Tian is the only craftsman in the small tribe. He is a barbecue expert and winemaker. He definitely doesn't need to go out and hunt ferocious beasts or fight with all kinds of prehistoric beasts. Even if he wanted to fight, his strength at the peak of the Earth Immortal level would not allow it. It was not until then that Huang Tian knew that the small witch tribe he belonged to was affiliated with Zhurong, the god of fire, one of the 12 ancestral witches. This big guy will be known as a ruthless character in the future. He is also known for his violent temper and recklessness. If he disagrees with something, he will fight to the death until he dies. It was precisely because of the protection of this big boss and several powerful attacks that he was able to succeed. Only then did he protect the ancestral witch tribe, and most of the small and medium-sized tribes were safe. No, this progress is still too slow. Maybe I should think of another way. Looking at a group of tribal giants, covered in blood, carrying the bodies of terrifying prehistoric beasts back. Huang Tian also shook his head and sighed. As the battle between the three overlords of the dragon, phoenix and unicorn becomes more and more brutal. The living space of the small and medium-sized tribes of the Wu clan was further crushed, and every time they went out hunting, they had to go through many brutal battles. If this continues, the situation will be worrying. Huang Tian also found the tribal leaders and suggested that they start migrating closer to the legendary Zhuwu tribe. Unfortunately, the tribal leader rejected it outright. In their witch clan, the hierarchy is extremely strict. The distribution and development of any small or medium-sized tribes are all carried out in accordance with the arrangements and orders of the ancestral witch tribe, and cannot be changed at will. Even if all the members of the tribe died in the battle, they would never disobey the orders of the legendary 12 ancestral witches. Huang Tian was also helpless about this. After thousands of years of living together day and night, he had developed an emotional bond with this group of rough and unruly men. He also wanted to protect this small tribe within his ability. Unfortunately, his words were insignificant and these witch men were all stubborn and would not listen to any of his advice. Huang Tian could only sigh helplessly. Perhaps, from some unknown time, this ancient craftsman might have to run away. At the same time, Huang Tian, who was full of sorrow, had no idea. In an endlessly distant place, on the top of the majestic and vast Buzhou mountain. In an ancient and majestic hall, 12 terrifying giant figures gathered together. At this moment, they all opened their eyes wide and stared at a jar in the hall. The jar was tens of thousands of feet high. In the eyes of ordinary cultivators, it could be called a giant jar. As for the 12 huge beings in front of them, they can only be reduced to mini jars. Zhu Rong, you bastard, what are you doing? Where did you get such a shabby jar to play tricks on you? In the magnificent and vast hall, a terrifying figure spoke. He has a python head and a human body, covered with black scales, a black dragon under his feet, and a green python in his hand. He exudes an extremely fierce and ferocious aura. When he opened his mouth at this moment, the magnificent and vast ancient hall began to buzz and vibrate. He is one of the 12 legendary witches, Gonggong, the ancestor of water. As the person who was most incompatible with the other party and whom he disliked the other party, he got angry at the first moment. Humph, Gonggong, you are such a reckless man, why are you so impatient? I'm telling you, this thing in my hand is a real treasure. Go wherever you want to cool down, don't be an eyesore here. The ancestor witch known as Zhurong was also unhappy and snorted coldly. There was also a lot of gunpowder in the words. He had a human body with a beast's head, a dragon's garment on his body, fire snakes in his ears, and a fire dragon under his feet. He was Zhurong, the ancestor of fire. Boom! As soon as Zhu Rong finished speaking, a huge roar was heard in Penghu Temple. I saw Gonggong, the ancestor of water, suddenly float up, and the evil aura in his body was shaking violently. Zhu Rong, you bastard, who are you calling a reckless man? I'm not done with you today. Humph, you are a brainless and ignorant fool. I'm talking about you. Why don't you accept it? See how I take care of you today. Zhu Rong also snorted coldly, and the ancestor witch's divine fire surged around his body. When it came to fighting, Zhu Rong had never been cowardly in his life. Especially when facing that bastard Gonggong. Boom! In the Penghu Temple, the two great ancestor witch level bosses were about to start fighting after a disagreement. The incomparable aura of the two ancestor witches made the entire Penghu Temple shake even more violently. This is also because this place is one of the legendary supreme divine places in the ancient times, the Penghu Temple. If this happened somewhere else, it would have been crushed by the terrifying aura of these two big guys. Not to mention, over the endless years, these two big guys have fought each other countless times. The main feature of Penghu Temple is that it is indestructible, strong and durable. Chapter 18 The Surprise and Emotion of the Witch Ancestors. Old 4, Old 5, stop it. It seemed that the two ancient witches Zhurong and Gonggong were about to fight again. At this time, another huge figure at the top of the hall spoke. He is like a yellow bag, red as cinnabar fire, with 6 legs and 4 wings, and is solid and faceless. This is actually the ancestral shaman of space, Di Zhang. He is also the leader of the 12 legendary witch ancestors, and his cultivation is extremely terrifying. Buzz. With the big brother Dijong speaking up, the tense and oppressive atmosphere of the battle in Pangu Temple suddenly dissipated. Even Zhurong and Gonggong had to stop. Humph, Gonggong, you are such a reckless man, you are lucky this time. If it weren't for my elder brother pleading for you, I must make you look good. I watched the exciting battle that I was looking forward to, but it failed to take place. Zhu Rong couldn't help but curl his lips and shouted in a muffled voice. Even if they didn't fight each other, he couldn't lose in momentum. What's more, Zhu Rong came prepared today. The treasures he brought were absolutely rare and precious. Therefore, Zhurong felt very confident. Zhu Rong, you bastard. How dare you call me a reckless man? Why don't you take a mirror and look at yourself to see how ugly you are? Gonggong did not show any weakness and shouted loudly. The witch ancestors. Well, they are recognized as the two most impulsive and reckless guys in their witch clan. They actually had the nerve to accuse each other of being reckless in front of all the brothers. This is no one else. If we talk about recklessness, who in the entire witch clan, or even in the prehistoric land, can compare to these two? Of course they didn't dare say this out loud. Otherwise, the entire Pangu temple will not have peace for a long time. In this regard, Di Zhang rubbed his eyebrows with a headache. Fourth brother, didn't you just say you wanted to show us the treasure you brought? What on earth is this? At this time, another voice sounded in the hall. Completely different from the loud, muffled voices of the ancient witches, this voice was filled with tenderness. It sounded so comfortable, and it was actually a female voice. Following the direction of the voice, I saw that the person who spoke was indeed a female ancestor witch. She is one of the only two female ancestors of witches, who too. Yes, that's right. Old Four, stop wasting time here and show us what you have. Look at what good stuff you brought to us today. Hearing this, the boss Di Yang's face lit up and he quickly changed the subject. He really didn't want to see Zhurong and Gonggong, two reckless men, making endless trouble. If they continue to talk nonsense, a magnificent battle between the ancient witches will be inevitable. Fourth brother, the eldest brother has spoken, so stop hiding things. If you have something good, take it out and share it with your brothers. Inside the Pangu hall, other witch ancestors also spoke up and urged. Haha, big brother and sister who too are really good at seeing things. Hearing this, Zhu Rong was overjoyed, and his rough face was even more proud. He snorted coldly and glanced at his archenemy Gonggong with disdain. Now was Zhu Rong's highlight moment, and he was too lazy to care about Gonggong, the reckless man. Since all the brothers are so curious, I won't hide it anymore. This small jar contains a rare treasure from our tribe. It is unique in the entire prehistoric world and is sure to be loved by all the brothers and sisters. Feeling that the eyes of all the witch ancestors in Pangu Temple were focused on him, Zhu Rong laughed out loud. Then he did not hesitate and waved his rough big hand. The giant vat that seemed tens of thousands of feet high in the eyes of other cultivators, but the small jar he was talking about flew up and landed in the center of the hall. Get up! Zhu Rong shouted softly, and the lid of the tightly sealed small jar was opened by him. HMPH, a reckless man pretending to be a god. Gonggong snorted coldly with a look of disdain on his face. But before he could finish his words, he stopped abruptly. For the first time, a look of surprise appeared on that rough and weathered face. That's right, it was a look of shock. Gonggong, the ancestor of water, who originally had a look of disdain and contempt, also changed his expression completely. At this moment, there was a strange and rich fragrance floating in the Pangu hall. This aroma is so unique, and it is filled with an extremely strong spicy taste. In an instant, all the witch ancestors were shocked. Even they hadn't expected that the small jar, not far away could release such a strong aroma of spiritual liquid. Moreover, they had never heard of the fragrance of this spiritual liquid. Such a strong aura. Lao Si, please tell us why this thing is so different from the others. The always calm and wise ancestral witch boss, Di Zhang, was also somewhat moved and asked quickly. At first, even he didn't know what to call this unique and strange fragrance, but finally, an idea flashed in his mind and he thought of the word, different. Indeed, it is most appropriate to use this word to describe this thing at this moment. Haha, brothers, what I said is right, right. How about this treasure? Does it attract you? Looking into the Pengu temple, all the witch ancestors were shocked and surprised. Zhu Rong's face became even more proud and he laughed even more happily. His efforts were worth it. He tried his best to suppress the urge to drink it all in one gulp and brought the treasure in the small jar to the Pengu temple. Now all the witch ancestors were truly shocked. This feeling of inner satisfaction was beyond words. Old Four, you bastard, what are you still wasting on? Quickly pour out all the treasures in this jar. I'm going to drink it first and taste it. In Pengu temple, the strange and unique fragrance became stronger and stronger, constantly surging, making the ancient witches unable to bear it any longer. That's right. Come on, fill my cup first. I want to taste the treasure in your jar today. Zhu, who was ranked second among the ancestor witches, also kept urging. Haha, since you brothers are asking so kindly, I won't hesitate. Come on, everyone has a share. Zhu Rong had a proud and excited look on his face. He waved his hand and the jar in the hall floated up on its own. Immediately, the seats of all the witch ancestors surrounding the entire Pengu temple began to pour out the delicacies from the jar. The sound of flowing water echoed in Pengu temple. At this moment, all the witch ancestors were silent. They all opened their eyes wide, staring at the crystal-clear spiritual liquid in the stone wrist with surprise and desire. The aroma of this spiritual liquid is so wonderful, rich and fragrant, yet contains endless fierce spicy stimulation. For all the witch ancestors, it was an unprecedented double shock to the sense of smell and taste. This spiritual liquid is called Witch King wine, and it was created by my tribe. Brothers, please have a taste. The words of the ancestor witch Zhurong echoed in the Pengu temple, and they were full of confidence. Chapter 19. The name of Huang Tian is in the eyes of the ancient witches. Gulu. Unfortunately, Zhu Rong was so proud and boastful that none of the witch ancestors had the heart to pay any attention to him. They were all concentrating on making the strange spiritual liquid in the stone bowls in their hands. The special and strong aroma of the spiritual liquid made these rough guys addicted. Over the long years, the spiritual liquids of heaven and earth, the supreme immortal juices that the ancient witches have drunk, were really far inferior to this Witch King wine. There is such a huge difference between them. There is no comparison at all. At this time, even the only two female ancestor witches among the 12 ancestral witches, Hu Tu and Zan Ming. They all widened their eyes and looked at the spiritual liquid in the bowl in their hands with surprise. Bang! It took less than a breath. A stone bowl fell heavily onto the huge stone table. Haha, cool. This tastes so good. Witch King wine, what a good name, it really pleases me. The taste of this wine is unparalleled. Old Four, you bastard, such a rare and precious thing appeared in the tribe, but you have been eating it all by yourself. You're really not considerate of me to share it with you brothers until today. Quick, fill my glass. I want to drink to my heart's content today. I won't leave until I'm drunk. Zhu, the second oldest among the ancient witches, spoke, his rough face full of excitement. This strange and wonderful Witch King wine was exactly what he wanted. The overbearing and fierce taste really made him linger in the aftertaste, and his blood began to boil. Old Four, there's also mine here, hurry up and fill it up. The other witch ancestors also shouted loudly, and the huge sound was as loud as thunder. Even the boss Di Zhong looked surprised. This spiritual liquid called Witch King wine is truly extraordinary. After drinking a bowl of it, even Di Zhong liked the wonderful and strong taste. All of a sudden he was intoxicated by this peerless wine. Witch King wine, brewed by our witch tribe. Wonderful, it's really wonderful. Di Zhong couldn't help but sigh at this moment. The person who brewed this kind of peerless wine must be so damn talented. In Pengu Temple, Zhurong was full of vigor and ambition, and was extremely proud. The reactions of his brothers and sisters at this moment were all within his expectations. I remember how I first tasted this Witch King wine by accident. Aren't you also shocked? Afterwards, Zhu Rong took great pains to plunder some of the stock. Haha, keep going brothers. Zhu Rong laughed. He continued to manipulate the small jar remotely, pouring wine for his fellow ancestor witch brothers. Of course, this guy also kept an eye on it. He didn't know when a large stone bowl appeared in front of his table. The Witch King's wine spirit liquid poured in. Gulu. In Pengu Temple, all the witch ancestors rolled up their sleeves and began to work hard. However, a small jar, even if it is tens of thousands of feet in size, cannot withstand the massive amount of food from big guys like the 12 ancestral witches. In just a moment, the Witch King wine in the jar was completely gone. No way, it's gone so soon. I haven't tasted anything yet. Old four, you bastard, why are you still standing there? Hurry up and serve the wine. Zhutian, who was standing by, had a strong smell of alcohol coming out of his mouth, and his face was slightly red. He stared at Zhu Rong with an extremely dissatisfied look and shouted. Second brother is right. If fifth brother doesn't leave behind 810 jars of such a fine wine, he will never be able to walk out of this hall in one piece today. The other ancient witches also echoed. Although it was just a jar of spiritual wine, it has completely captured the hearts of all the witch ancestors. Even the two ancient witch sisters, Hu Tu and Zan Ming, drank more than one bowl just now. Brothers, to be honest, I really have no stock left. This one in front of you is the last one. Being stared at with vicious eyes by the ancient witches in Penghu Temple, Zhu Rong's originally high-spirited expression froze. At this moment, he was secretly thinking that something was wrong. The degree to which the witch ancestors liked the Witch King wine was beyond Zhu Rong's expectations. In order to drink this peerless spiritual wine again, it seems that they are planning to use violence against him. No, brothers, I really have no wine now. I saved this jar with great difficulty by living frugally. Zhu Rong quickly stopped. Zhu Rong, you are such a reckless man, you are just using this small jar of wine to amuse us, it's really too much. Not far away, Gong also took advantage of the situation and went crazy. At this moment, he had a dark face, his eyes were burning with anger, and in his heart he cursed Zhu Rong. This hateful ruffian, such a delicious and unique jar of wine. The other ancient witch brothers drank at least 3 or 4 bowls, but Gong only drank 1 bowl. It's the first bowl. On the other hand, Zhu Rong shamelessly placed 2 large bowls on the table and drank at least 7 or 8 bowls. This bastard definitely did it on purpose. In the Penghu Temple, a jar of Witch King wine was quickly consumed by all the witch ancestors. At this moment, they all looked ferocious and stared at Zhu Rong fiercely. Such a wonderful and delicious treasure, just 1 jar is not enough. With their ancestor witch's huge appetite, he would have to drink at least hundreds or thousands of bowls before he could feel a little better. This little bit of wine is not even enough to fill the gaps between my teeth. Hey, brothers, wait a minute, let's talk it over, don't do anything. Seeing that his brothers were almost unable to hold back their anger, Zhu Rong also became a little anxious. Although he and Gong are known as the 2 rough men of the Wu clan, they both have hot tempers and are extremely warlike. But he also didn't want to be beaten by his fellow witch ancestors. Therefore, Zhu Rong did not dare to delay any longer and quickly told what he now knew about the origin of the Witch King wine. How come this peerless wine was not made by the people of my Wu tribe, but by an alien creature? When they heard Huang Tian's name, all the witch ancestors showed some surprise on their faces, but they were also very curious in their hearts. Especially when they heard that this cultivator named Huang Tian had been living in a small tribe under the Zhurong Zhu tribe for a long time, and had a very close relationship with the big men of the Wu clan. Now, the witch ancestors became even more interested in this foreign creature. He is barely at the celestial immortal level, yet he is able to brew a peerless spiritual wine that has made us all so addicted. This alien creature named Huang Tian is really quite interesting. I would love to see it in person if I have the chance. Zhutian, who was ranked second among the ancestor witches, had a fiery light flashing in his eyes and spoke in a muffled voice. Second brother, please don't bother with this little matter. Since Huang Tian is from my Zhurong tribe, I'll go there myself. Upon hearing this, Zhu Rong shuddered and kept shaking his head. Are you kidding? This alien creature named Huang Tian is a super treasure. Not only can it brew peerless spiritual wine such as Witch King wine. It is said that he has an amazing barbecue skill. How could Zhu Rong be willing to give up such a wonderful person? Chapter 20 Penghu Temple, Dizhong's warning. Haha, Lao Si, you don't need to be so nervous. We are brothers. Don't worry, I won't easily steal your treasure. I'm just a little curious. Looking at Zhu Rong's alert expression, the second brother Zhutian couldn't help but laugh. But the strange light flashing in the depths of his eyes became more and more intense. Fourth brother, second brother has spoken personally. You have to take the initiative. No matter what, you must get this Witch King wine to us as soon as possible. If you eat alone, your other brothers and sisters will be very unhappy. Another ancestor witch spoke up and echoed. Looking at the empty wine jar in the center of the hall, the witch ancestors smacked their lips, feeling unsatisfied. This peerless spiritual wine called Witch King wine is so delicious and unique. Especially the strong spiciness and impact after drinking heavily, which is very consistent with the rough and unruly style of the ancient witches. It's a pity that the quantity is too small. It was quite unpleasant to drink. Buzhou Fairy Mountain and Penggu Temple. The great witch ancestors drank fine wine and talked about Huang Tian. Not only Zhutian, but other ancestor witches also wanted to meet him. This legendary winemaker. I'm afraid everyone has their own little calculations in their hearts. Only the water ancestral witch was sulking alone. A pair of huge eyes like copper bells, full of red, stared fiercely at the reckless man Zhurong opposite. Previously, when he drank the immortal wine, he was targeted by the other party. Don't worry, brothers. I'll take care of this matter. I will definitely not let you down. Feeling the fiery gazes around him, Zhurong patted his chest loudly and made the promise quickly. If he didn't speak nicely today, it would be difficult for him to get out. Humph, Zhurong, you are just lucky. Why are you showing off? This kind of spiritual wine, falling into the hands of a wretch like you, is really a waste of precious gems. Seeing this scene, Gonggong on the side snorted with disdain. After holding it in for so long, he finally found something to say to that bastard Zhurong. The more arrogant the other party was, the angrier Gonggong became. We are all brothers, so why do the other ancient witches drink so many bowls of wine? Only Gonggong drank only one bowl. He couldn't even taste the delicious wine, and could only stare blankly, drooling as he watched his brothers drink. Gonggong, you reckless man, I think you are itching for trouble. He drank the best wine from my tribe, and he's still making sarcastic remarks. If you don't agree, go build one yourself. If you don't have the ability, just stay aside. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude to you. Upon hearing this, Zhurong glared and shouted loudly. Zhurong will not be polite at all to this bastard who has been secretly sabotaging him. Especially after drinking a lot of good wine, he felt his hands itching and just wanted to find someone to practice with so that he could stretch his muscles. Boom! As soon as Zhurong finished speaking, Gonggong beside him exploded. He stood up suddenly, staring at me with a pair of red eyes. The murderous aura of the ancestral witch was shaking all over his body, and even the huge stone table in front of him was completely shattered into pieces. Zhurong, you reckless man, come here, I will teach you a lesson today. Buzz. On the other side, Zhurong was not to be outdone, and the ancestor witch's body burst out with a strong aura. For a moment, the entire Penggu temple shook violently again. Old 4, Old 5, you two bastards, what are you doing? Sit down. Seeing that Zhurong and Gonggong were about to fight in the hall because of a disagreement, Dizhong was very troubled. In fact, he also understood very well that the boredom and dullness of the long years had already made the brothers of the ancestral witches extremely irritable. This little guy has a bad temper and gets angry at the slightest thing. For a long time, various minor frictions have continued between the two sides, and the number of fights has become more and more frequent. But in the past tens of thousands of years, this catastrophe of heaven and earth has reached the most critical moment. The fight between the three overlords of the dragon, Phoenix and Unicorn was too brutal, with countless casualties. If it weren't for the eldest brother Dizhong who was personally suppressing them, given the rough and impulsive temperaments of the ancestor witch brothers, they would have run out to fight long ago. Today, with great difficulty, such a rare item as the Witch King wine appeared. This could also effectively divert the attention of the ancient witches, and Dizhong was very satisfied with this. But he never expected that Zhurong and Gonggong would start a fight again. Finally, under the strong command of Dizhong, Zhurong and Gonggong, the two brothers who were born incompatible, had to give up. But from each other's eyes that were almost spitting fire. Anyone can see that the fight between these two guys is inevitable sooner or later and cannot be suppressed by force. Dizhong shook his head helplessly at this. My fellow brothers and sisters, as the eldest brother, I must emphasize one thing again. The vast universe has now reached a very scary period. Even if you are our ancestor witch, you must not take it lightly, and you must not rashly get involved in the vortex of the three tribes' war. If anyone disobeys my orders and causes a terrible incident, don't blame me for being ruthless. As soon as he finished speaking, an extremely terrifying pressure burst out from Dizhong's body. This kind of aura was so fierce that it made the other witch ancestors feel a little nervous. Even Zhurong and Gonggong, the two most stubborn and reckless men, changed their expressions, sat down obediently, and dared not make any more noise. As the leader of all the ancestor witches, how could Big Brother Dijong not have some skills? If it weren't for the absolutely powerful strength, the Buzhou Mountain and Penggu Temple would have been in chaos long ago. Talk about the other side. Huang Tian, who was still in a small tribe in a remote corner of the witch clan, had no idea that the ancestor witches he had always admired were actually paying attention to a small fry like him. He was still depressed at this time. On the one hand, it is because despite my repeated efforts, I have not yet achieved any expected results. It is even more difficult to set foot on the legendary Buzhou Immortal Mountain and seek the protection of the great witch ancestors. Of course, there is another important factor that causes his depression. It is the immortal phoenix sword in his hand at this moment, which has a mysterious origin but is extremely terrifying. Well, it should be said that it is the Lingbao immortal sword. Huang Tian really didn't have the courage to use the word Xian Huang at this moment. Master Shangjian, who are you exactly? Can you please reveal your true identity to me? If you keep being so arrogant, I'm going to panic. In the small Wu tribe, Huang Tian looked at the ordinary spiritual sword in his hand. He was really helpless. Thousands of years have passed. This old man with the magic sword really depends on him. It looks simple and introverted, not noisy or noisy, but it just hangs on Huang Tian and can't be shaken off. Huang Tian felt like his mentality was about to collapse. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories. And never miss out on a great listen.